And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ewell versus Allen, step forward, please.
Corporate receptionist Lori Ewell is suing her ex-boyfriend, Jason Allen, for his share of credit card charges. Jason says he doesn't owe Lori a dime.
Miss Ewell, you and the defendant were dating. He was in the process of getting a divorce. And according to your complaint, the two of you agreed that you were going to use one of your credit cards. He would use one of your credit cards for all of the expenses, dating expenses, his expenses, because of some machinations attached to the divorce. And that he would be responsible for paying that credit card. You gave him the credit card?
No.
You held on to the credit card?
Yeah.
And according to your complaint, he ultimately, the relationship wound down. You used the credit card, a couple of $1,000s worth of charges on the credit card. He gave you a check for $2,000 to cover the expenses on the credit card, and then he stopped payment on the check. Mr. Allen says that there was never an agreement with regard to the credit card. He gave you the $2,000 to help you pay down your debt, and that when you broke up with him, he put a stop payment on it. That's your defense.
That's correct.
That doesn't sound very convincing, Mr. Allen.
Well, I don't feel that I owe her anything.
I didn't ask you what you feel. I just made a statement. The statement was, that doesn't sound very convincing. So I want you to digest that for a moment. When did you meet him?
September 3rd, his birthday.
And tell me about this arrangement that you made with him with the credit card. When did you first have that discussion with him?
Shortly after we were dating, about 2 weeks later, he couldn't use his credit because he paid for like some of the dinners in the beginning, like the first week, and everything was fine. Second week, he couldn't use his credit card.
Well, what did he say to you? I want to know what he said to you.
He's going through a divorce, and that he couldn't use his credit card because of the whole legal thing or something. So I was like, okay. So we were going to use my credit card. I said, okay. I said, I'm already in enough debt already. I said, so just as long as you promise me you'll pay me back. And he said, oh, yes, I will, because he's going to get some money from refinancing his house that his ex-wife wanted to keep. So $30,000 was going to come his way. And he goes, don't worry, Lori. Well, then I started shopping. Okay, I was buying all the groceries for, almost every day.
Was he living with you?
Yeah.
When did he move in with you?
End of September. About.
And how long did that last?
That lasted till December 10th was when I broke out.
So what were you using the credit cards for?
Groceries.
What else?
That's basically it, just grocery shopping, just drinks, beverages, food, meat.
Okay. And then you broke up in September. Tell me about the $2,000 check.
That he wrote me on the 8th, and it was actually...
Can I see the check, please?
Yes. And I also have... Here's all the shopping I've done.
Okay. So what happened after he wrote you the check for $2,000?
I found out he was lying to me 2 days later, and so I thought...
What do you mean you found that he was lying to you?
He told me he was at... The day he wrote that check out, he told me he was at work all day. He had a full work story, like, oh, this happened and that happened. I did detail... He worked on this guy's car, and he said that guy offered him whiskey, and he, drank with this man. And he worked at the man's house, the guy who's doing the work for. And so I believed him. It was a story, work story, And I found out later from receipts that I found, Beach Girls, didn't know what that was. And I found out that from the recording, the receipts, the ATM receipts, from 2 to 5, he was there at this Beach Girls place. And I called it at work. I didn't know what the heck Beach Girls was. And it turned out to be a bikini bar, a disgusting
Okay, so you found out he lied to you where he spent his afternoon. And what did you do?
So when I found that out, I broke up with him. And then I hadn't cashed the check yet because I was in no hurry because I trusted him.
Now I'll hear your end of the story, Mr. Allen.
Well, we met in September. We started dating. It started getting good. I was involved in a divorce. I even brought my daughter to meet this girl.
Let's get to the credit cards. In September, did you tell her that you couldn't use your credit cards?
I told her I couldn't use my credit cards.
Just a second. And did you tell her that if you used her credit cards, because you had to use somebody's credit cards, if you used her credit cards instead of using yours, you would reimburse her? Did you tell her that?
No, I did not.
So your intention was for her to use her credit cards for everything without reimbursing her?
No, I paid cash. I usually pay cash. A lot of my business, my customers would pay cash.
Pay cash for what?
For dinners, I would give her cash. For rent, I would write her a check.
Well, how many checks did you write her for rent?
Probably 3.
Can I see them?
I don't have those with me.
Well, who do you think has them?
Well, I just moved from here, from California to New Mexico. I have a lot of things in storage, and
But you have a bank, don't you?
Yes, well, that bank is closed. I closed out that account and opened a new one.
That doesn't make any difference. You can always get a copy of your checks by merely calling up the bank. And if it's your defense, sir, that what you did was you gave her checks, therefore you don't owe her this money, and you gave her checks for rent and checks for other things, then it seems to me you come here with something equipped with something other than your smile. Do we understand each other?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. You don't write somebody a bad check and then come with a baloney story, sir. Doesn't fly. We understand each other?
Yes, it does.
Out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If my customer wants to go golf, I take them to the golf course. If they want to go to the bikini bar, I'll take them to the bikini bar. It's money business.
It was not your normal classy bikini bar. I mean, it was just dirt, scum.
She had numerous friends that she would call and say, well, if I need help, I can go to see Rich Dude and he'll give me money and this and that. She's a gold digger.
I'm a woman who has a big heart, and I do not use men for money.
I wasn't prepared. I didn't come with receipts or check stubs. And I just wasn't prepared.
It's a big learning experience for me, and I hope to hell I never meet a guy like him ever again.
Sarah Gardner is suing her former live-in boyfriend, Aaron Zaleski, for rent and a loan to pay a traffic fine. Aaron is countersuing for the unpaid balance on an apartment lease.
Everybody. Yeah, this is case number 403 on the calendar in the matter of Gardner versus Zaleski. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Ms. Gardner, you and Mr. Zaleski lived together for a period of time. It is your claim that he owes you for some old bills, some rent, and fines. Mr. Zaleski says that he agreed, when the two of you parted ways, to a restraining order issued in your favor. And sort of as a quid pro quo, you agreed to take on the responsibility of the bills and the house and the lease, etc. Is that right, sir?
That's correct, Your Honor.
As far as the fines were concerned, he says he never borrowed any money from you. So, when did you live together?
From July of 2003 through the end of June 2004.
And did you both sign a lease?
The first year, his credit wasn't good enough, so I was the only person on the lease for the first year. There were 2 leases involved.
Do you claim that he owes you any money from the first lease?
Yes.
So if he owes you money from the first lease, why did you sign another lease with him?
Because the first lease, I was giving him an opportunity to get back on his feet. He wasn't paying rent from his first place. His roommates were kicking him out. So we had the agreement that he would pay me back if I gave him the opportunity to get back on his feet.
But he didn't do that. He didn't pay you back. And he didn't pay his other roommates back.
Correct.
And despite that, you signed yet another lease with him.
At that time, he was an investment. I had already lent
He's
him.
a bad investment. That
Correct.
means you had bad judgment.
I did.
So now let's start out with lease number 2, because I'm not interested in lease number 1. When did you sign the second lease?
In May of 2004.
Did you sign the lease too, sir?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Very good. And how much was the rent?
My share was $505 a month.
Is that right?
He's correct.
Okay. Did you pay it?
I paid for the first month that I lived there.
How many months did you live there?
Well, 17 days after we moved into the apartment, she informed me that she wanted to end our relationship, and she instructed me that I was to go out and get my own apartment and take care of myself on my own.
So you're telling me that you paid May's rent?
Actually, we moved in, the lease started June 1st.
You mean the landlord gave you a freebie for May?
We moved in at the end of May. They gave us a few free days at the end of May to move in.
Okay. And he moved out when?
The last weekend in June.
Did you pay June's rent?
Yes, I did.
Show me.
I paid all but $30 of it. I have it all documented.
Let me see. Good job. What are these things, these receipt things?
Those were receipts that I was giving a copy to her every time I made a payment to her.
Excuse me?
Excuse me? Did you ever see these before?
No.
Of course not. He does nice tabs, but Mr. Zaleski, what you're trying to tell me is that the woman that you were sleeping with every night, you would give her a receipt if you gave her $40. I just want you to see if that's what you're trying to tell me.
After this process, probably.
What does that mean? After this process, probably. I want to know, sir. You were living with her?
Not at the time the payments were made.
Oh. Oh.
Those were made after she had kicked me out of the apartment.
Did he give you money after he
No.
was kicked out of the apartment?
No.
Of course not. By the way, do you have a checking account?
No, not right now.
Did you
Did I have
ever have
Yes.
a checking account?
Yes.
Let me
and
see.
It was from October 2003 to May 2004. Those are all payments made for bills and to Sarah Gardner, check duplicates, and bank statements.
Why don't you have a checkbook anymore, sir?
Because the balance that I had at this bank account was overdrawn, and I did not have time to open up a new banking account.
So you had an overdrawn bank account because you didn't have any money?
Correct.
And yet you were giving her money for some old bills, according to you, that going back to 2003. Is that what you're telling me?
She can be very demanding, Your Honor.
Okay. 505 you owe her for June because you have no payment here for June, other than the yellow little receipts that I don't believe. Here, you can give this back to me. He's got nice color. He did a nice job here, I must say. This is a very, very nice job.
Not as good as she did lying.
Sir, you don't understand. There is no payment for June's rent.
I have the original cash ledger with every payment that I gave her.
I'm not interested in 2003. If she was dumb enough to sign up with you again after you owed her allegedly all this money from 2003, that's her problem. That comes under the category of being dumb. I'm just talking about June 2004's rent. And if you can show me that you paid $505 for June 2004's rent, I'll give you credit for it.
Well,
can you or can you not?
the total amount of rent due from the first lease...
I'm not interested in the first lease.
I overpaid her, Your Honor.
Listen to me.
No.
Show me a check for June's rent.
I cannot do that.
All right. Now, what about this fine, Miss Gardner? When was it? What was it for?
In October of 2003, he got his license taken away. It was for an old parking ticket he didn't pay for. In May of 2004, he wanted to get his license back. He had about $1,300 in fines. The only actual evidence I could come up with that I paid was $475. I know there was more, but I have evidence for $475 of those fines.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
What about these fines, Mr. Zaletsky?
That was money loaned so we could get those cleared up so we could... move to Madison.
We. I don't understand the we. Who got the tickets?
I did.
So when did it become a plural, we, so that we could clear them up?
When we were moving on to the next chapter in our relationship and our lives after she graduated college and we were moving to Madison.
They're your fines. Why should she pay them?
She offered.
Because he promised to pay me back.
Of course he did. Do we have a new boyfriend, Miss Gardner?
Yes.
Does he have a job?
Yes, he does.
Does he pay his own way?
Yes, he does. And then some.
Good. Well, at least you learn.
Real quick.
Eventually.
Right. Learn from our mistakes.
Okay. Now, you, sir, say that she agreed to sort of swallow hard with regard to this entire debt if you consented to a protective order, even though you really weren't harassing her, right? Mm-hmm. So let's start with the fact that she signed up for a protective order because you were bothering her.
Yes.
You were summoned to court.
Mm-hmm.
You consented to the order.
Correct.
Show me where she said, I will assume all of the responsibility.
Can I just say something?
I want to look at it. You can say whatever you want after I look at his
See,
evidence.
it's the last sentence on page 2 and
Yes.
page 3. She stated it twice, Your Honor.
I'm going to look at it, sir. Oh, what she says is, Aaron owes me several $1,000s, but I'm willing to cut my losses to get him out of my life.
Correct.
Well, she is cutting her losses, sir. She says you owe it several $1,000s. I just cut it down for you to $980.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, ex-boyfriend Aaron Zalesky owes for breaking an apartment lease. Aaron says Sarah told him to move out.
Now let's get to your counterclaim.
Okay. Sarah Gardner kicked me out on June 17th, 2004.
Sarah Gardner, according to you, told you that she thought it was time for you to get out of the apartment, correct?
Actually, it was a trial separation where I got my own apartment and she had her own apartment, but we were still trying to continue to be friends. There were instances where she even cooked me dinner a few nights, watched movies after I was gone.
Listen, not Oprah. What's your counterclaim about?
My counterclaim is to make up the difference in rent accrued in the apartment since she got evicted and kicked me out. I signed the lease along with her mother as a co-signer, And the rent currently due is $4,985, and I am requesting half of that amount, which is $2,492.50.
Why? Who's suing you?
They will be suing as soon as the apartment is re-rented. She jumped the gun and decided to sue before it was closed.
Your counterclaim is premature, sir.
So would her claim be then too, wouldn't it?
No, sir. You lived there in June. Your behind was in the bed in June. You didn't pay the rent, so you owe her for that. You gathered up hundreds and hundreds of dollars in fines. She paid them. That is not something in futuro. The fact that you think that the landlord may come after you for unpaid rent for the lease that you signed is speculative. Do I make myself clear?
Clear.
Counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $980. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Just one more thing. Look up. Look up. Say thank you, God.
Thank you, God. Honestly, I'm just glad that it's over. I hope I never have to see him again.
Unfortunately, my best was never good enough for her.
He's got issues.
She gave me the greatest year of my life, and I've never been loved more by anybody so genuinely, and I'm going to miss that, and it haunts me every day.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Donor versus Spexer. Step forward, please.
Office manager Denise Donor is suing her former friend, bartender Shelley Fexer, for unpaid loans to pay her bills. Shelley is countersuing, claiming Denise stole her belongings.
Ms. Donor, the defendant was a former friend of yours. And
yes, she was.
You lived together for a while.
No, I lived with her mother. She did not live at the house.
You lived at her mother's house.
Correct.
She didn't live there ever?
No, she lived it with her boyfriend.
According to your complaint, you made a loan to her.
Correct.
And she did not pay you back.
Correct.
Ms. Fexer, according to your answer, there was never a loan. The plaintiff paid some bills for you because she was a friend and you had fallen on hard times. And you claim that she took some of your property when she moved out of your mother's house.
Right.
And you are counterclaiming for several $1,000s. Ms. Donor says that the only thing she took was that piece of luggage, I assume. She's more than willing to give that back to you. When was this loan made, Ms. Donor?
It started in August of 2002 up until June of 2003.
Okay, let's start with the first loan. What amount and what for?
When I moved out there in the house with her mom, she asked me if I could...
Were you paying her mother rent?
Yes, I was. She asked me if I could help her out by paying some credit card bills because she didn't have any money. She wasn't working a steady job. She's a bartender, and it wasn't real steady for her.
How long do you know her?
A little over a year.
So you were good enough friends for her to come and ask you for money?
Yes.
And you felt close enough to her to give her the money?
Yes, I did.
How much did you give her in August of 2002?
August, it was only $200, ma'am. She flew to Chicago to help me pack my house out of Chicago.
So then why should she owe you $200?
She agreed to pay for her flight. I paid for everything else on the drive back, the gas, the food, the hotels.
Really? So let's start with that one.
I tried to pay for my own ticket to help her move, which is a little ridiculous.
Well, that sounds ridiculous to me.
It really is. And she obviously charged me for it later.
No, it's ridiculous to me. It doesn't sound normal. If somebody's coming to help you pack and up your drive back, they don't pay for their own ticket. What's next?
Payments I made to her credit card companies on her behalf at her request.
When?
In September, October, November, December, January, February, April, and then June.
And what was the total amount of those?
A little over $2,200 and something.
You made those payments directly to the credit card?
Directly to the credit card company.
Tell me why.
Because she agreed to pay me back once she got a regular job again.
Well, when did you go back to work?
I was out of work about 3 months.
When did she go back to work?
About 3 or 4 months later at the Home Depot.
So did she go back to work in December?
She was working in December, yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Was she working in November?
No.
Okay. So she went back to work in December. When was the last time you paid her credit card?
In May of 2003.
How much did she pay you between December 2002 and May of 2003?
$170.
Well, why is it, madam, that you continue to make payments for her when she was working in Home Depot in December? Your agreement was that she would pay you back when she got a steady job. She got a steady job, and you continued to pay her credit cards. Why, Miss Donor?
Because she was not making enough money to afford her bills at the house as well as her own credit cards.
Well, but I don't understand. What kind of relationship did you enjoy with this defendant that would suggest to me that it's logical that you should pay her bills.
We were very close friends. She was like a sister to me. I would do practically anything for her that she asked me.
Well, then what happened, Miss Stoner?
Well, we used to do a lot of drugs, and when I quit using, that's when our friendship basically dissolved, and I decided to move down a different road than she did. The rest of them, when we would be out, if she asked me, we'd be at the Target or something, she'd ask me for like some personal hygiene products or some
not interested
stuff
in
for that.
That's not what courts are set up to do. I'm not going through a laundry list of feminine products.
Right, exactly. I understand.
You understand that, Miss Stoner. You have receipts that you paid $2,200 and some odd dollars in credit card bills.
Correct. I have the
defendant,
canceled checks.
For the defendant, and she doesn't deny that. Is that right?
That's true, yes.
Okay. And you paid her back, according to you, $500.
Yes. I was making payments to her right before she moved out of my mother's house. I had a good job, was making payments, because she said, don't worry about the payments. Whenever you get it, give it to me.
Excuse me, Your Honor,
Okay,
she's lying.
shh. Now.
My apologies.
Now. Fine. So she said, whenever you have it, you'll give it to me.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and you said?
I did give it to her whenever I had it. I paid her a couple payments, and she said, do you want a receipt? And I said, no, I didn't need a receipt. We were friends.
How much did you give her?
A total of $500.
Show me.
I can't. It's on. I marked it on my calendar, just that I paid her.
Let me see the calendar.
Okay.
I make sure it's a calendar that I'm not going to find suspect.
I gave her receipts for every time she gave me cash, Your Honor.
No, you did not.
Shh, don't fight with each other. I don't understand what figures are you telling me I should be looking for here?
Just June and July in the red. Says
June
paid.
and July is a couple of dollars. $40, $20,
Right.
$20, $50,
Right.
maybe $200.
Right, correct.
Where's the $500?
Well, that's like $200, and I gave her $2 more.
Well, show me where.
Well, I don't have the counter. She has it.
She says you gave her $179. So you giving me a calendar, you say you gave her $200. Okay, that's $2,000 left. What happens to the rest of the money?
Well, I was paying her, and also when I first met her, she didn't want me to go back to work after the first bar I worked at closed. She said, just be my personal assistant and I'll pay you, And we traded. I drove her around. I introduced everybody I know, did things for her. Whatever she asked, I do. But I still was paying her back the money when I had it. I guess in June or July, we went to Austin, Texas together for my mother's birthday, and she charged me for the ticket, which she did not pay for. I don't owe her all this money. And then that's when we probably had our falling out. She just acted weird. I think she wanted a different relationship than I was willing to give.
You owe her $2,000. Now let me hear about your counterclaim, madam.
When she moved out of my mom's house, my mother was aslead, and I wasn't there.
Your mother helped me move out.
I don't want you to speak.
Okay.
Until I look in your direction or ask you a question.
Okay.
And she had two friends come help her, and she didn't call.
Were you there?
No.
Well, then, how are you telling me this?
Well, because the girl that helped her actually told me some things.
That's hearsay.
Right. Well, the things that were missing when she left the house that weren't hers.
Doesn't tell me anything.
That weren't hers. They weren't her
Doesn't tell
items.
me anything.
Right. She went through all my pictures, rearranged them all for me. These are all missing. Pictures when I didn't even know her.
You have to have proof, madam. Proof.
Right. And you know what? She's taken any proof that I have. She's
Well,
taken
then
the
I can't help
pictures.
you. I can't help you. Give her back her suitcase, please.
Okay.
Yeah, it's her suitcase.
Yes, it
Miss
is.
Donor said that that's your suitcase. Is this your suitcase?
Right, and
Ms.
I do have
Flexer?
receipts from that one. That's the only thing I have receipts from, because she took all the receipts when she took the items, if I had any. I know I can't prove it.
So if you can't prove it, then don't waste my time with it. There's your suitcase, a very nice piece of luggage. You owe the plaintiff $2,000. Pay her. Thank you very much.
Body judge, excuse me. Step out.
I think that she's in love with me.
My boyfriend would be shocked to understand that I had, quote unquote, supposedly likings for her.
Just a few of her actions, she was a little too friendly.
She doesn't know the truth if it would come up and bite her in the butt.
She'd do anything to make herself look good.
Crystal meth makes you do stupid things, and as you can see, the defendant is still using.
I think she got obsessive.
Shelley's a drug addict. She has been, and she always will be.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McLeish versus Kramer. Step forward.
21-year-old department store manager Ashley McLeish is suing her former friend, retail salesperson Angela Kramer, for her share of a trip to Las Vegas. Angela claims Ashley and her witness coerced her into going.
How old are you, Miss McLeish?
21.
Miss Kramer?
21.
You used to be really good friends, and you claim that Miss Kramer owes you for her share of a trip that the two of you took to Las Vegas.
Correct.
And Miss Kramer says she had a lousy time, right?
Yeah.
And in addition to having a lousy time, she never agreed to pay you back.
That is incorrect.
Miss Kramer, what do you do for a living?
I'm a student in a retail sales.
Where do you work?
I work at Mervyn's.
You live by yourself?
No.
Who do you live with?
I live with my father.
In his house?
Yes.
Miss McLeish, what about you? You're a student?
Yeah, I go to Golden West College, and I'm a retail manager at Mervyn's, and I live with my parents.
Okay, good. Now, you went on vacation?
Yes.
For how long?
3 days.
You were going there for what reason?
Because it was our 21st birthday, so me, her, and my witness wanted to have a good time, and on our 21st birthday, Vegas is like the place to be.
Good. So, you asked her to go with you?
Yes.
She said?
Yes.
And?
So I looked online for prices for hotel and airfare because we wanted to fly there, and after...
Did Miss Kramer say that you should put these charges on your credit card?
I agreed to put it on my credit card, and the agreement was that she would pay me back before we left on August 1st.
Your Honor, that's not...
Just a second. She didn't pay you back?
No, she hadn't paid me back.
What did she tell you about paying you back?
She said she'll get back to me. So I figured it would, she'd pay me back when we got back because we're having a great time. We both had fun. We went out to dinner. We went dancing. We went to clubs. We went and got VIP everything. We didn't have to pay for anything. And all she did was...
Why not?
Why not? Because the month before we had made a connection. Our friend knows a lot of security guards, and he knows a lot of bouncers, so we got to get in free. We didn't have to wait in 2-hour lines to get in the best clubs.
Okay. According to you, you had a good time.
Right.
Came back, she didn't pay.
Right.
Go.
I never agreed to pay. When she said that the hotel, the price of it, I said that's way too high and I'd rather just stay at my family's house because I can stay there for free.
So why didn't you?
Because when I told them that, they said, just don't worry about it.
And somebody dragged you on the plane?
Well, it's my 21st birthday. I was trying to distance myself anyways, and that's why...
I'm asking you, somebody dragged you on the plane?
No.
Well, if you didn't want to go, why did you go?
Because they said just don't worry about the costs.
Well, why would you think that they would take you away on vacation?
Because that's what they said.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
I don't believe you.
I actually have pictures, if I could show you, of her having a good time dancing.
I don't care whether she had a good time or whether she had a lousy time. It's irrelevant to me.
Your Honor, I was trying to get out of the vacation because I didn't want to go with them. And when they said, just come on, please go, I decided, fine, I'll go. Because they said, don't worry about any of the costs. Don't worry about anything.
Your Honor, may I
go.
say something,
Yeah,
please?
step up. Tell me your name.
My name is Lori Irigoyen. And we spoke to her the night before we left, and she said, yeah, she couldn't afford it. But then we said, okay, we've still put it on a credit card. You need to pay us back, or you need to pay Ashley back. She didn't want to do that. Well, you can't.
Well, what did she say?
She said, no, I don't have to pay you back. If I don't go, I shouldn't have to pay you back.
Exactly.
Why did you call the night before?
Because I had talked to them recently before that also, because what I was doing was I was talking to my backgrounds investigator, and when I was going through looking at the lie detector tests and polygraph...
I have no idea what you're talking about now.
Well,
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
what it is I'm going for a future career in the criminal justice, and so I was talking to a backgrounds investigator, and she was showing me the polygraph test that you would have to be taking, and it had to ask questions about your friends and what you know about your friends, and that can make you fail and make it so you can't get into a premier area.
So please.
I had decided that I didn't want to be around any negative influences where I know that things are going on.
So why did you go?
Because I made a mistake. I thought...
Good. Yeah, that's what you say. You say, I made a mistake. And when you make a mistake, what do? Pay! Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $296.45.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All advice, Judy. You may step out.
I think after a while, people just stop being friends, and it just, you have nothing in common anymore.
I had been friends with her for over 9 years, and you kind of want to salvage a relationship.
She didn't want to do anything. She
the entire time.
The restaurant wasn't good enough for her. Nothing was good enough for her.
They just contradicted themselves afterwards because all I did was about the entire thing. How did I have this grand old time that they were saying that I had in the courtroom?
26-year-old account specialist Beatrice Turrieta is suing her mother, tanning salon owner Beatrice Coleman, for having her falsely arrested and for the return of her belongings.
All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 470 on the calendar, the matter of Turrieta versus Coleman. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Ms. Turrieta, this is your mom.
Yes.
And you're suing her for a couple of things. First, you were living with her and her boyfriend. I assume this is the boyfriend?
Yes, it is.
For a while. You and your husband?
Yes.
And children?
My baby.
Your
My
baby?
6-month-old son.
Child. And there was some sort of a disagreement, a dispute. You left the house and you claim that your mother still has some of your property.
Yes.
That's one. Number two, you claim that your mother falsely reported to the police that you had stolen a credit card from her.
Correct.
And you were arrested.
Yes.
Your mom says that she has none of your property. I don't understand her defense with regard to the credit card. Is what you're saying, Ms. Coleman, that you didn't call the police, but your boyfriend called the police?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, when did you and your husband and baby move in with your mother?
April 2004.
Why?
My mom didn't raise me. My father raised me from when I was 3 and my brother was 1 in New York. And I talked to my mom maybe 3 or 4 times a year for my whole life. She asked us to come there and come visit her, so I brought my son and we came to visit. I visited for about a month, and she said, why don't you come here with...
Well, what was your husband doing when you were visiting?
He was still at work in North Carolina, where I'm from.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we were there for about a month, and John had come to visit 2 weekends, and she said, you should come here, save up all of your money, live with us, and you can save up enough money and get a house and come live here. So we did.
Where is here?
To Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
And things were pretty normal and good for a little while.
Did your husband find a job?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
And I got a job at the end of August. After that, I think things went downhill from there. She was watching my son while I was going to work, and he had diaper rash almost every week to the point where his butt was bleeding, and I had to fix it every weekend.
Can you tell me on what day you moved out?
October 16th.
Had there been an argument?
Yes.
About what?
They came home, they had been drinking. My brother was back from Iraq with his wife, and they came into the house and they were stomping and slamming doors and screaming. And I asked my brother, I was like, can you be quiet? My son is sleeping. And he stood up and he was like, I don't have to be quiet, I don't have to do anything. And then Ron came up behind him and he was like, this is my house and this is my rules, and if you don't like it, you can get out. And he was screaming and acting like a psycho, so I went and got my husband. And he got in my husband's face and tried to start a fight with him and said, come on, big boy, come on, big boy. You want to do something?
Okay, I got it. So you left that night?
Yes. And she came into my bedroom and she brought her purse with her. She took out her wallet and she opened it up and she went to looking through her credit cards and she went to give me the black one that I use sometimes. And then she goes, oh, you have my GM card. Why don't you just use that one? Get a week at the hotel. And I'll get you somewhere to live. At the end of the week, I'll get you somewhere to live.
Well, why would she get you somewhere to live if you were working and your husband was working?
Because she felt bad because we had moved there.
You had the credit card?
Correct.
Ms. Coleman, how did she get the credit card?
She had it. She was going to obtain some Barbie dolls for me at her job.
She gave it to me.
Just a second. When did you give her your credit card?
Probably 2 weeks prior to her leaving the house.
Does that sound familiar to you?
She gave me the card almost every day, all the time, for gas, cigarettes, everything.
How many times did she use the credit card? If I were to look at the slips from the credit card company, how many times before October had she used the credit card?
Probably about 6.
And would you give it to her each time, or was it in her possession?
Usually.
Not usually. Was it in her possession?
She kept it. She kept it. She kept it.
She kept it?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I'm going to get to the truth.
Yes,
you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I would like to see the police report that was filled out with regard to the credit card. Well, first of all, Mrs. Coleman, you filled out this police report. This is in your handwriting.
Yes, they made me.
Nobody makes you do anything, and you say here that she used it without my knowledge or permission.
Right.
Who made you? Your boyfriend?
No, when the sheriff came to the house.
Why did the sheriff come to the house?
Because he had checked our account online. She had used
Who
it.
had?
My husband.
Yeah.
And she had used it at the motel room, charging $309. She went 3 different times in a matter of hours to the Meijer at the bottom of the hill and went on a shopping spree. Okay.
And charged what?
Energy drinks, men's boxer shorts, women's bras, conditioner, shampoos, all the stuff that she brought the policeman to the house to get that night.
Ms. Coleman, I don't understand something, madam. I mean, I hear you talking about all the things that she charged on this. You're not talking about a lot of money. They all look like emergency things that one would use if they were staying temporarily someplace that they needed interimly, especially when you have a baby.
Right.
And you knew she had the card, and she had had the card before.
Right.
Don't you think the smarter idea, rather than involving the police in this, was after you went online and saw that she had charged the hotel room and charged the other thing, to call the credit card company and say, listen, my daughter has the card. She's not authorized to use it anymore. I want to stop the use of the card. Do not let it be used again.
Prior to this, she had went to my salon and was mad at her husband, charged $680-some worth of tanning products. My husband and her had gotten to a confrontation over it, and he told her, you are not allowed to use this credit card unless your mother gives you permission. And he said, because if you use this without my knowledge, he said, I will file a complaint on you.
Don't you think that it would have been smarter, more maternal, if you say to whatever his first name is, Joe, she's my daughter, she left the house, she's got my grandson with her, we don't want her to use the card anymore, just call the company and tell them, shut off the card. I don't want to involve the police, I don't want her to be arrested. Did you say that to him?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did he say?
Well, he said that he had already told her that she was not allowed to use it. And before she brought it back, minutes before she came to my house with the policeman standing there, she stopped and got a pack of cigarettes at the corner store.
You think he did the right thing?
No, ma'am.
You think you did the right thing?
Yes.
You did the wrong thing.
We attempted to take it back.
No. Your girlfriend says that you told her you can hold on to it, but if you use it again without your mother's permission or my permission, I'm going to call the police. And I'm saying, is she lying to me?
No.
Well, and I'm saying to you, if you didn't want the temptation there, you should have taken the credit card back. But you don't put her in a situation where she's got a baby and the police come to the motel and take her away and arrest her. That can stop a process going from which it's very hard to extricate yourself. Very stupid. But they were entitled to do it. And I somehow think that your mother is sorry that it happened. She's sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I know.
You got it?
I know.
Okay. What does your mother have in the house that belongs to you?
I have pictures of some of the stuff, and then I wrote a list of all the things
Let
that
me
she
see it.
has. And I called her and asked for his high chair, and she said, when I was in the hotel, because I said he was eating on the bed, and she said, well, he needs his high chair. And I said, I want my caricature and the calendar of him that I've been making of him since I was born. And she said, you know, I don't think I have those things. All I want is some respect. And she said, Ron's going to take care of it from here, and threw the phone down.
Okay. You have these things?
I see she showed you a little picture of a toy box that Nicholas is in. That's mine. I bought everything that she's talking about, and I have receipts. I have $10,000 worth of receipts. Mr. Turietti was asked if he had got everything out. He said, yes, he did. He looked at me and said, all's in there is garbage. I can go down to my job, get a truck, come up and throw all the garbage away if you want me to. I said, don't worry about it, John. I'll clean it up.
Did you go to the house?
Yes, Your Honor. I went on...
With or without the police?
With the police.
Fine.
And before we walked in, they wouldn't let us in the house until they had the credit card and the key to the tanning salon. She had to come up from the hotel. We gave them back the credit card, but we are not allowed to go anywhere in the house except the bedroom. Our stuff was in the basement, in another closet.
There's a lot of junk here.
Yes, Your Honor.
All of this doesn't add up to the motel room, right?
Right.
So what are you doing here?
I want the calendar that I've been making of my son since he was born. There's no, you cannot put a price on that. I put pictures of
Okay,
him.
do you have the calendar?
No, ma'am. And if it wasn't all that garbage, and what I had done was bought cases
Do you have
of
the
Pampers.
calendar? The
No,
answer is
ma'am.
no. She doesn't have the calendar.
That's just to hurt me. That's just to keep things from me that are
She
of
doesn't
my
have it.
son's.
Listen, you used a credit card, and I think that you probably knew that you weren't supposed to use the credit card at the time when you used it, whether you did or whether you didn't. What he had to pay for as a result of your using the credit card is more than this.
They didn't pay for anything. That's why my case was dismissed on January 21st, because they could not provide the receipts because they didn't pay the bill.
Oh, really?
Really.
Is that right?
You would have to ask Ron about that. We did pay. The reason it was dropped is I'm going through some cancer treatments. I didn't feel like going to, I couldn't. I was throwing
All
up.
I want to know is, did you pay for the motel?
We've reported it to the credit card company
They did not.
as a misuse of the credit card.
So the answer is you didn't.
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Beatrice Turrieta says her mother, Beatrice Coleman, had her falsely arrested for credit card theft. Beatrice says her mother gave her that card.
You bought certain things for your grandson. Toy box?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. High chair?
No, ma'am. I don't have the toy, but I didn't. Oh, that's a walker, yes. But I don't have that. They have that.
Yeah.
But this you have.
Yes, ma'am.
You want this?
I don't have that other thing.
Just listen to me. Do you want this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You have any problem with them having that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. If you want to go over there in the company of a peace officer within 5 days, you can get those things. Understood?
Understood.
Very good. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I was born to that, who I haven't seen since I was 3, and I will never see again.
I would have still given her the $3,000 if that's what she wanted.
She's not a mother. She doesn't know how to be a mother. She never will be a mother.
When she came to my house, she asked my husband where his connection was for cocaine. So I'm sure that's probably what she needed it for. Either that or a gallon of Captain Morgan every week.
I do like Captain Morgan, but I'm a little fat to be on the coke. You think?
She's been in prison before for
Sponsor,
welfare
actually.
fraud.
I was in jail. I wasn't, and I've made mistakes in my life.
My dad told me I was selling my soul to the devil when I came to her house, and he was right.
Now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lay versus Costa. Step forward.
20-year-old sales rep Jason Lay is suing his former co-worker, homemaker Sandra Costa, for stopping payment on a car he sold her. Sandra says the vehicle broke down the day after she bought it.
How old are you, Miss Costa?
31.
Married or single?
Single.
You have children?
Yes.
How many?
4.
How do you support them?
I've been getting jobs. I just had my last baby not too long ago, in last April, and I was just starting to get back on the roll of getting back to work.
Does the father of these children live with you?
No, he doesn't. Actually, he just passed away in November.
And any of the children get death benefits?
They will be.
You've had cars before?
Yes.
You bought used cars before?
Yes.
Okay. This is what this case is about. Mr. Lay sold you a used car for $500.
Right.
And it broke down either on the way home or the next day.
Right.
Was it on the way home or the
It
next
was the
day?
very next day.
But you drove the car from his house to your house?
Yes.
How many miles was that?
Give or take about 50 or 60 miles.
Broke down. And then you stopped payment on the check.
After 4 days after he had said he would be there.
And you want your money.
Yes, ma'am.
How long had you had the car?
About a month and a half before I sold it to her.
Who did you buy it from?
I bought it from a friend of mine.
For how much?
$350.
Did you do anything to the car?
Yes, when I got it, it wasn't running, so I put some spark plugs, wires, that kind of thing, just made it to where it was running pretty good. And I'd actually planned on keeping it. When she was working with me, she told me that she needed a car pretty bad, so I decided to sell it to her.
Okay. Ms. Costa, you can't stop payment on the check.
Your Honor, he never gave me a bill of sale, a receipt, or a title for the vehicle.
So what? Listen, you can't make up excuses, Ms. Costa. Buying a used car from someone privately is always a risk. Always. Buying a car from somebody for $500 is a very big risk. And in this country, we have the words, they're in Latin. I'll tell you what they are. It's called caveat emptor, and it means let the buyer beware. When you buy a used car from somebody for $500, you don't expect it to keep running. If it does, you've really prayed good. You owe them $500. All the rest of the stuff that you want, you can't get. Your aggravation, your lost wages,
Well, Your Honor, it was
punitive
more
damages, harassment.
It was more the harassment charge because of the tape that I have right here. Her boyfriend had called after this incident had happened and had threatened my life, had threatened my family's life.
This boyfriend?
I don't know who it is. I've never seen him. I've only heard him on my voicemail. He had called and left me a voicemail threatening me and my family's life, and I was very threatened of it.
But not her.
Well,
She didn't call.
it was her and her boyfriend that was there. He says on the
Listen to
tape.
me. Listen to me. This is probably the boyfriend. You the boyfriend?
Just a friend.
Just a friend. Are you the friend that went and picked her up and got the car?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You're the friend?
Yes.
You mean she has a boyfriend other than you?
She don't have a boyfriend.
Then it must be you.
No, she has a friend.
Judge for the plaintiff for the amount of $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I tried to do a good deed there, and it came back, and now I'm here.
It apparently has been towed off to a tow yard.
I was very threatened for my life. I mean, obviously, she picked up the car from my house, so she knows where I live.
It wasn't me that made the phone call. It was somebody else.
He could have showed up at any time and, done anything to me or anyone I lived with.
Sherry Ogden is suing her daughter, student Shannon Bentley, for a series of loans to help her get back on her feet. Sherry claims Shannon's house and car were seized in a drug raid.
All rise. Now this is case number 501 on the calendar, the matter of Ogden versus Bentley. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Ogden, this is your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, your daughter asked you for a series of loans.
Yes, ma'am.
She had gotten into some trouble.
Yes, ma'am.
Possibly trouble that could have ended her up in very hot water. And she agreed to pay you back. She did not.
Yes,
and in
ma'am.
addition to that, you co-signed for a car for her. Car was eventually repossessed. She
Yes, ma'am.
says at your suggestion, therefore, she owes you nothing for the car. And your daughter says that you did, in fact, give her some money when she got into trouble. In exchange for that, she waited on you hand and foot like a slave, and if you had to pay somebody to take care of you, it would have cost you a lot more than what she actually took from you. Is that your
Well,
defense?
that's a lie.
Shh.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
That's your defense. How old are you?
I'm 32.
What kind of trouble did you get into, Miss Bentley?
I was picked up with a sale of drugs.
Drug sale?
Yes, ma'am. I haven't been charged yet, but I was picked up for that.
When was that?
That was September 1st, 2004.
Are those charges still pending?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a lawyer involved in
Yes,
that case? What did you need money for?
Well, whenever I first moved, my mom offered me a place to stay, to get back on my feet, to get cleaned up and stay out of trouble. And I took her up on it, and I had a couple of hot checks.
What do you mean hot checks?
Well, I mean, I had written a couple of checks, and they weren't covered. I thought the money was in the bank, but it wasn't.
So you needed money?
Right. She offered. I didn't ask.
How much money did you need?
I think that was $250 at that time. And there was also an incident where I was going through a divorce at the same time, and I had my ex filed telephone harassment on me. And so I also had to fine for that for court. I didn't ask her to pay. Again, she offered. I was going to come up with the money.
You were going to come up with the money.
Right.
How much was that?
$500.
Does your mother work?
Nope.
How does she support herself?
My stepdad pays our bills.
So she's married and she lives with her husband.
Yes.
So it really is the income that's coming into the house is his income.
Right. She loans it out to other family members just like she did me.
She offers it to other family members with the understanding that they're not going to pay her back.
Or that they will if they can, whenever. If they don't, she wants it right then she wants it right then.
Who are you?
Her witness, Robert Dillahunty.
How is he related to you?
He's my boyfriend. He was there whenever she offered to pay some of the bills for me and stuff.
Was he also arrested on these drug charges?
Yes, ma'am.
You have the same lawyer or a different lawyer?
Different lawyers.
That's a good idea. You understand why you have a different lawyer, don't you?
No.
Because eventually one of you is going to put it on the other.
Amen.
Well, that's going to happen.
They both
That's
lie
why,
like dogs.
That's why I have two different lawyers. So let's deal with the $750.
Well, totally it is $244.54 for your hot checks for you.
Okay, she said $250. It's close enough. What's next?
And the other one, I had just gotten out of the hospital on Wednesday night, and I get a phone call the next morning around 10 a.m. on Thursday from Robert Delahunty's mother, Margaret Delahunty, saying that Shannon had to have $404 or she was going to go to jail. Well, I had no other way to get it. My twin was sick. She couldn't go take it. I paid Mr. Deaton by telephone, and he charged me an extra $100 to do it.
Okay. Well, once you turned over the money, tell me about the discussion you had with your daughter.
Well, she knew she had to pay me back. I told her, I said, Shannon Michelle, I ain't growing money on trees. She knows she got to pay me back.
No, Miss Ogden, listen to me very carefully. I want to know what you said to her and what she said to you when you finally saw her after you paid this money.
She said, Mother, I'll get a job. As soon as I get my job, I'll pay you back. And as soon as I cash my stocks in, I'll pay you back. I've heard this and heard that.
Just a second. Did she ever get a job?
No, but she got offered one. She wouldn't take it.
Did she ever sell her stocks? What kind of stocks do you have?
There were some my dad, he passed away in 2002. There were some he had with Dow back from like the 70s. It was just a few $1,000s worth.
So what'd you do with the money?
I'm having them transferred right now into my name because I was executor of his estate. And Judge, I couldn't get a job because I pretty much did everything for her. When I moved in, I did
Miss
everything.
Ogden.
I did everything for the woman. I cleaned. She, get me something to drink, get me a beer, get me this. She was constantly, it never.
So what?
I was her maid. How could I get a job?
Miss Bentley.
I did the best I
Miss
could.
Bentley, you're not there now. You're not taking care of your mother now. Why can't you get a job now?
I can. I'm looking. I'm going to school full time and I'm looking for work.
Look, listen to me. You have children?
Yes, ma'am, too.
Your children don't live with you?
No, ma'am.
They live with their father?
They live with his parents.
Or with his parents?
Yes, ma'am.
They don't live with you?
Right.
Or him?
Right.
Amen.
Ditto to that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Sherry Ogden says her daughter, Shannon Bentley, owes for loans she made while Shannon was trying to get clean. Shannon says because of drugs, she lost everything.
This is not the time for a 32-year-old woman to be in school full-time, my dear. This is the time for a 32-year-old woman to be in school part-time and working. Because if you have children who are being taken care of by their paternal grandparents, in addition to paying your mother back for the money she laid out to keep you out of jail, you should be sending support for your children. How's that for an eye-opener?
I agree. You're right. I've looked for a job.
You're not looking hard enough, honey. Anybody can get a job.
Thank you.
Anybody can get a job. Fast food, drying cars at a car wash. Anybody can get a job. Your problem is that you've had a windfall of money. According to your mother, $375,000.
No, ma'am, it wasn't that much.
How much?
It was around $250,000.
$250,000 is $250,000. That's a lot of money.
I have a house paid for. I have a car paid for. I have
Lufkin Police Department has it.
Shh. Listen to me, Miss Ogden. Don't speak.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say to you is, you got a lot of money. That can make you a real lazy behind. But you have responsibility. When was the last time you sent your children support?
I haven't supported them. I've bought clothes for them. And
that's not support. Support is sending their grandparents $500 a month. And I suggest that if you want to be considered a mother at any time in your life, you will start to do that. Get a job and start supporting your children. Because that's what mothers are supposed to do who don't have their children in their custody. Just like fathers. But first, you pay your mother back $750 judgment.
Wait, I got $1,250 in there where I loaned her to. It's on there.
Is that for the car? Shh, listen to me. Was that for the car?
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to pay careful attention to me and just listen to me.
Okay.
The car was repossessed.
I had them.
You had them repossess the car.
You know why? I couldn't stand it being in Lufkin, Texas because of her and Dopehead over here. Insurance could elapse on a Friday night. Well, I wouldn't know that Gates got it. Right?
I understand. Listen to me. I understand why you felt compelled to repossess the car. Mm-hmm. But there was no legal reason. There's an emotional reason for you to repossess the car. You said, listen, I'm not crazy about him. I'm not crazy about her. And I'm not going to be stuck with this payment because it could end up on my credit, so I'm going to call them and have the car repossessed. I can understand why you did it. But then you can't get the money back for the tax tags. All right, $750. I'm speaking.
$700.
Listen to me. I'm speaking. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $750.
But Judge,
That's all.
I'm telling you, listen to this tape right here. No, listen. She owed me $1,250.
Right, that's it.
What is your excuse? You messed about.
You liar. She went through all of that money on drugs, and there's a dope head over there with her.
I bought a house, bought cars. I mean, the money's gone. This is true.
She stood there and told a bald-faced lie. I don't even drink beer. She'd get up and get me a beer. She didn't wait on me for no hand to foot and a man in the moon.
Well, she's crazy because, I mean, she takes so many pills, it's pathetic. She's nothing but a pill head.
She sold Vicodins and Zoloft and
My mother
Prozac to other doctors and stuff in Pasadena.
You know why she goes to school? She gets Pell Grants. That way she can live on it.
My mom has nothing to do with the kids. She can go see them on her own. She don't. She calls them occasionally. She don't leave her house, leave her pill bottle.
Well, I love her. I hope she gets her life straightened out. But if she can't get her life straightened out, she better stay out of mine, because I don't want to go to penitentiary.
I just don't think there'll ever be a relationship. There never has been one. There's never going to be one.
Tony Williams is suing her cousin, 20-year-old Sir Williams, for various household bills. Sir is countersuing, claiming Tony bleached his clothes.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 520 on the calendar, the matter of Williams versus Williams. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
What's your first name?
Sir.
Is that what people call you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Interesting first name.
Thank you.
Miss Williams, this is your cousin. According to your complaint, you leased an apartment with him, with one other person?
With him, yes, ma'am.
Just with him?
Yes, ma'am.
And your agreement was as follows, that you were going to pay the rent and he was going to pay the utilities.
Yes, ma'am.
The utilities were in your name. He didn't pay the utilities. According to you, he owes you several $100s for the utility bills before he moved out. And in addition, because he didn't pay the utilities, he ruined your credit, so you want him to pay additional damages to you. Sir says that there was never any agreement for him to pay the utilities, and in addition, this has nothing to do with anything other than a family dispute that you have, which caused you at some later time to come to his home, where he had moved with his grandmother, and you came in, you poured bleach, and you ruined his clothing and his shirts and his shoes, and you have some property that belongs to him. When did you sign this lease with your cousin?
Ma'am, I have the lease agreement right here. He signed it on the 25th. Actually, he signed it on 6/20/04.
Where had you lived before?
With my grandmother.
Were you working at the time you moved in with your cousin?
Yes, ma'am.
Who were you working for?
EBS, janitorial services.
How much money were you making?
$9 an hour.
Working 40 hours a week?
Yes, ma'am.
Your cousin says that you had an agreement that you were supposed to take care of the utilities.
No, ma'am.
Why in the world would she sign a lease with you? You did sign a lease, didn't you?
Yes.
And you not have any responsibility to pay any of the bills at all?
No, I moved in with her. She said she was going to help me get on my feet. She was about to get a house built, and I was going to move out and get my own apartment.
But you signed the lease?
Yes. That's for my apartment credit, so I can get my own apartment. I wouldn't have that much hassle.
And when did you move out?
I got put out.
When?
The end of August, beginning of September.
When did you put him out?
Ma'am, actually, I didn't put him out, but it was in October. My cousin had a birthday party for him on October 2nd. He stopped by with his nephew, picked up some things, and that's the last time I saw him. I haven't even spoken to him since all this happened, to be honest with you.
Ma'am, actually, she did put me out. She told me, give him my house key, get out, and if you don't have all your stuff out here by Sunday, it's going to be scattered out across the apartments.
You lived there for 3 months.
Correct.
What did you do with all your money?
Nothing. I bought my clothes. I bought stuff that I needed.
And you didn't give your cousin any money?
No, I wasn't supposed to.
I didn't ask you whether you say you weren't supposed to. That's what grown-ups do when they have a job. Sir.
Okay.
They take care of their own responsibility. You know, when you were living with your grandmother, were you giving her any money?
No.
You giving her any money now?
No.
Are you still working?
No, ma'am.
Well, did you lose your job?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
According to my job, I had a lot of calls coming in from her and her friend that, they said that they were being rude with them. They used to call my job for unnecessary stuff like, I'm his girlfriend, there's an emergency, and all this other type of thing of that sort. That's what my job was told to me.
You got to start taking care of your own responsibilities. You have a girlfriend?
Yes, I do.
You don't have any children?
No, ma'am.
Take your girlfriend out?
Nope.
He was supposed to take care of the utilities? Yes, ma'am, he was.
Tell me what you told him when he moved in.
Actually, madam, there's a history behind this. Back in 2002, I got out of the military. I'm in the United States Marine Corps. He actually lived with both my sister and I. We were roommates. We rented a house. We stayed there for a year. When our lease was up, we moved into an apartment. I was purchasing a home. Sir was with us the whole time. Yes, I was helping him out. He was my brother. He asked me if he could be my brother. We were raised together. She's my grandmother, too. We moved into this apartment. I was actually working. He was working for me when all this happened with EBS. I got him the job. I was in property management. I was taking him to and from work. The deal was I would pay
Was she driving
rent.
you to and from work?
Yes, she did.
I would
go ahead.
I would pay rent because I made more money. He did. He would pay the utility bills.
What utilities?
The electric bill, the telephone bill, the cable bill, and also, madam, I got him a cellular phone in my name, which I'm not litigating against today. But those bills, which totally conclusively didn't really add up to much. I mean, I was paying rent.
In total, for the 3 months that he lived with you,
yes, ma'am.
How much were those bills? The electricity, telephone,
the cable
and
bill was $464.80, and
$464.
$464
For 3 months
and 80 cents. Yes, ma'am.
What kind of cable did you have?
Besides the cable bill, someone else, and it wasn't me. I don't know who it was, but they ordered movies or something like that. Fights, which I guess cost more money.
Did you ever do that?
No, ma'am. She ordered those fights.
Just a minute. What was the basic cable bill?
I think it was like $97 a month or something like that.
Is that possible?
Yes.
It's entirely possible.
All right, so that's $300. What else?
The telephone is $166.79, and the electric bill was $604.59.
What was your rent?
$720, but I also paid a wash and dryer, which was $35, and a water bill, which was usually about, I'll say, $30 a month.
So you were paying about $780, and he was paying about $350.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds fair to me.
No,
Sir?
She also had a roommate that moved in with her.
Who was that?
That was her friend.
My lover. But
Just a second.
Go ahead.
Well, if that's the case, then this doesn't look so fair.
She did not live there, but she was there a lot. Sir had his own room. She was in my room.
They shared rooms.
Well, I mean, that's my space.
They moved in. They said that they were going to split the bills, and
No,
whenever they
we
did
did
that.
not. She didn't.
No, don't interrupt
Yes,
him.
ma'am.
He's speaking now. Go ahead.
She moved in, soon as we moved to the apartment, she said, well, we're going to split the bills, and we're going to take care of this and that and the other, because she was getting a house built. I was going to sign my name on the lease for 3 months. Now that she's not going to be able to get her house, I guess that's why she's upset.
This is what I don't understand. She was building a house, which means that she had to have a certain credit rating. According to what I read, these bills were in her name.
Correct.
And it doesn't sound logical to me that she would avoid paying these bills, purposely not pay these bills, unless she thought, I'm speaking, unless she thought someone else was taking care of those bills and risk her credit being put in the sewer when she was paying the rent, going to pay for a mortgage on a house, right?
Correct.
So what you tell me about your lack of any sort of financial obligation for your own living expenses or for part of them doesn't make sense, sir.
She was helping me out.
Doesn't make sense, my dear. Now, you want to tell me about the bleached clothes?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Tony Williams says her cousin, Sir Williams, lived with her for free for 3 months. She is suing for $5,000 worth of household bills.
Madam, I have never bleached his clothes. As far as a clock, radio, and the stereo,
That's
my mother
not
gave
true.
me that for my 30th birthday.
Okay. There came a time when you went to your grandmother's house.
Yes, ma'am.
You were angry with him.
I was.
You were angry with him because he didn't pay these bills?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there any other reason?
No, I was mad at him because my credit was in the toilet. I got all these telephone calls. They were turning off my electricity.
So you went to the house and you were angry. What did you do when you got there?
I talked to my Nana, and I was upset. I was crying. I mean, I was very frustrated. She told me she didn't believe me. She told me that I was mad at her because of some girl between my sister. I have no idea. I started talking to my Uncle Robert, his dad. My Uncle Robert told me the same thing. I said, I have the paperwork right here.
What do you think that your cousin was angry about? About some girl?
No, we, that night when I got off work and I came home, she was upset. She was sitting on the couch talking about something about me and my cousin was at this other girl's house and waiting on my other cousin to come in. She said she called, she talked to my cousin, he told her I was asleep on the couch. She said not even 5 minutes later after that, her sister called, Wanika called, and said the girl was just talking crazy to her, and she was wondering why I didn't stick up for her, why I didn't defend her. I said, well, I was asleep on the couch, so I didn't know anything about that.
You mean okay. Let me see if I can translate this.
It doesn't even make
Your cousin was angry because she had heard that someone was saying bad things about her, and you didn't defend her?
To her sister.
Whatever.
Yeah.
She was saying somebody was saying bad things, and you weren't defending her. And your excuse for not defending her, despite the fact that she had been so good to you,
It's not an
was
excuse,
that
it's
you
the
were
truth.
sleeping on the couch.
Correct.
Now you got it? All right. Now, what happened when she came in with regard to your clothes? She came in, she spoke to her nana, she spoke to your father.
I wasn't there. Actually,
Who was there?
My grandmother was there.
You want to talk to me?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
What's your last name?
Ruth Williams.
All right, Miss Williams.
Ruth Williams Caraway.
Do you remember when this happened?
Not exactly the date, but it started in September.
Now, I want to know when she came to the house.
Let me see, I got that root on it. It's been on there. Anyway, it was the 10th and the 4th, I think. She had first called and asked me where was Sir. I told her he wasn't there. She said, because I'm going to kill him. I said, no. I said, you're not going to kill him. Yes, I am going to kill him because he left and owed me some money. I said, no, Tony, don't do this. Yeah, I'm going to do it. And then she left. And then I talked to her other sister, and she was raving. She said, I love my sister. He do just what she getting. So I said, well, he's not here. And when she come over to the house, she just rushed in the house, fussing and going on, and went on into his room. Her mother was standing on one side of the door. I was standing on the other. And she went in and he always put Clorox in his room because I'm allergic to it. And she taken a whole gallon of Purex and put it all over both the bunk beds, threw the fan on the floor. We got pictures of those.
I'd like to see it, please.
And spread them all over his clothes. And I told him, I says, I wouldn't do that. I says, I'm going to call the police. And she said, oh, hell no, you're not going to call the police. And she shoved me up against the wall. She shoved her mama, too, but her mama said she didn't do it. Her mama was on one side, I was on the other. And she shoved me up against the wall and went and didn't hang up the phone. So I told her mama to hang up the phone so I could call the police. So she didn't let her hang up the phone. So I didn't get to call the police. So they went out in the yard. I called and told my brother-in-law to tell Sir, don't come home. I said, because Tony's over here saying she going to kill it. And I don't want that in my house. They stayed at my yard about 3.5 hours, raving and cussing and dragging a whole box of these clothes out there and filled them full of water. And that's where they left her. And she went and got a baseball bat. She come back to the house. That's when I said that she needed help. She come back to the house and was going to run in. Her mama said, shut the door, don't let her in. So I had to screen those clothes, and she just snatched the screens door, which I got a picture of that too, and pulled it loose and asked me if I wanted some of it.
Oh, Nana, please stop it.
I told her no, that she wasn't going to get in, to leave my house and don't ever come back anymore because I've never had a granddaughter to disrespect me as much. She said, well, I'm going to get him when he come home. So her mother, her sister, and I guess that was her other lady friend. Anyway, it was a friend of hers said they stayed in my house about 3.5 hours, sitting out on the porch with a baseball bat waiting for him to come home. So when he come, I just showed him the room. She showed I have a bruise on this hip and my shoulder I can still feel.
Nana, please
and
stop.
I told her, my daughter, I thought it was all over till he got a summary that saying he was going to court. I don't know why I had the pictures taken, but I had them taken because I felt that I needed proof to show that something had happened.
If you're 20 years old and you're working and you have a job and you have a cousin who before all this happened was very good to you, right?
Correct.
According to you, if I'm to believe you, she was really very good to you for a long time because you lived with her more than 3 months, right?
And I never paid rent.
I'm not talking about paying rent. That doesn't make you a star, the fact that you lived with her for more than 3 months and didn't pay rent. That makes you a bottom sucker.
No.
Now, listen to me carefully, my dear. She says that you lived with her before.
I never paid rent. I never was supposed to.
I understand you didn't pay rent. She said you lived with her before, which means she was good to you.
Correct. So why is she suing me then?
After I'm finished with him, have a big boy discussion with him. Maybe he'll get it from you. Maybe he'll get it from you. You have to explain to me, sir, why someone who has had a history of being nothing but nice to you, let you live with her, supported you, got you a job, all of a sudden would turn on you like that. You have to explain that to me. It doesn't make sense.
There's no explanation for that. I don't know why she did that.
Are you still in the military?
No, ma'am, I'm not.
You didn't have a psychiatric discharge, did you?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Not crazy.
She bleached my clothes.
No, ma'am, I did
She
not.
busted
Just a
into the
second.
house.
Miss Williams. Miss Williams, listen, look at me.
Yes, ma'am.
Angry. You were, I believe, your grandmother. You went to the house, you and a friend, and you were absolutely beside yourself for whatever reason. So I believed you bleached his clothes.
I did not, madam.
Sure, them
Yes, you probably did.
I'm sorry.
Probably did.
I did not.
Probably did.
I have a witness here can attest to this fact. Not only was it us, it was not another woman with me. It was myself, my sister, who drove me over there because I was upset. She didn't want me driving. There was a guest, a neighbor, actually, who came over to us, and we were not in the yard 3.5 hours. I was in there maybe 45 minutes. I don't know. I was upset.
Long time.
My mom
You
was
were upset.
calming me down. I did not have a bag. Anyway, this neighbor came over to us.
I even had a
Sir
friend that came
Ash, Sir owed him money. I'm guessing. That's what he told us. My sister can attest to this. I did not bleach his clothes. I didn't even steal my radio that he stole from me, that my mother gave me on my 30th birthday. And as far as those pictures, to be honest with you, I think maybe they staged that. I love my grandmother to death. Now, you have no clue as to how much you've hurt me today. You have no idea. And to say that I hit you, I would never intend to yell and scream at my mother, too. I wasn't even raised that way.
Just a second. So you're not saying that she hit you?
She shoved me.
Shoved you?
Yeah, up against the wall like that.
Miss Williams, I believe that you are owed a certain amount of money. I believe that your cousin agreed to pay for the utilities.
No, I did not.
Don't interrupt me! Listen to me. I may be wrong. This may be one of the few times since 1947 that I have been wrong. I'm willing to live with it, because if you did not agree to pay some share of the living expenses, I'm prepared to be comfortable in the fact that you should have. So I find that there was an agreement, and if I'm wrong, I'm prepared to live with it. Do you understand, sir? Sir? Do you understand that, sir?
I don't think I should have paid anything.
You wouldn't.
Listen to me. Don't speak to him. Don't speak to him.
Because if that was the case, why would all the other times when I stayed where I wasn't obligated to pay any rent, why all of a sudden now when her bills get outrageous, now she wants
Because
me to
now,
pay.
sir, you are a big boy. And you signed the lease. And you owe her $1,070.
Also, the lease says that I was an occupant. She was the leaseholder.
And you've got a big fresh mouth, so I'm dismissing your counterclaim. That's all. Step out.
Excuse me, may step out.
I cannot stand him. What hurts me most is my own grandmother.
Well, I just think he should take more responsibility.
What did I ever do to him that was so bad, or even her? I love them both.
She should quit accusing people and take responsibility.
She did come to my house. She bleached my clothes.
Why would she bleach his clothes? We went and purchased his clothes, the both of us.
They didn't pay for anything. All those things I bought with my own money.
You little punk, you. I cannot believe you. Is that funny to you?
I just think it's just so wrong. I hate it. I love her to death. She's supposed to have been my special granddaughter.
She told me 3 months ago I was dead to her. They've both been dead to me for that long, too, I guess, especially after today.
This time when she gets upset, she loses her mind. The girl needs help.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Robinson versus Gorman. Step forward, please.
Plaintiff Anna Robinson is suing her former friend, water well driller Paul Gorman, for the return of a 1989 Chevy Blazer. Anna says Paul took possession when she went to prison for operating a meth lab.
Ms. Robinson, according to what I gather from your complaint, Mr. Gorman was a long-time friend of yours and a trusted friend. And there was a period of time when you became incarcerated. You were incarcerated on more than one occasion. While you were incarcerated, you gave Mr. Gorman power of attorney to handle certain of your affairs, cash your checks, etc. During your second period of incarceration, it is your claim that Mr. Gorman appropriated a truck that belonged to you by misusing the power of attorney. You want the truck back, or the value of the truck. Mr. Gorman says there is a very good reason why you can't have the truck back, and that's because he invested a substantial amount of money in the truck, including money to get it out of impound, where it was when you went to prison. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
When was the first time you were incarcerated, Miss Robinson, when you gave Mr. Gorman the power of attorney?
98.
For what?
I was incarcerated for drugs.
And how long were you incarcerated?
16 months, I believe.
And when was the next time you were incarcerated?
July 12th of 2002.
And how long were you incarcerated?
For 3 years.
And that was for drugs also?
Yes.
When you were incarcerated in July of 2002, you had a truck?
Yes, ma'am.
What year truck did you have?
1989 Chevy Blazer.
And where was the truck when you were incarcerated?
I was driving the truck and it went to impound.
You were driving the truck at the time of your arrest?
Yes.
Were you transporting drugs in the truck at the time of your arrest?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment and says when she went to jail, former friend Paul Gorman took possession of her Chevy Blazer. Anna says Paul refuses to return the vehicle.
Did you ask him to get the truck out of impound?
Yes. I said if he got the truck out of impound, they could drive it for the duration of my sentence.
Is that the conversation that you had with her?
No.
You tell me your version of the conversation that you had with her.
She basically asked if we can get it out and stuff, and we didn't have the money ourselves. And then time, lapsed on, and we finally got a notice. They gave us 1 week to impound. They're going to sell it. And then she said, if you guys can get it out, because I'm going to be gone for probably permanently, you guys can have it. And she mentioned to the neighbor, and she goes, well, I'll lend you the money if you pay me back, and I hold the title. I said, sure. So I have a notarized statement from her saying this is what happened.
Miss Robinson, what would have happened to the truck if Mr. Gorman didn't...
Well, it would have been lost.
So what difference does it make to you if he went and got the truck out?
Because it was my truck. I mean, he got it out for me.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying he called you and said they're going to sell the truck. I just got a notice. And he said what you said to him was, well, if you can get it out, it's yours.
I wrote him and them and asked him about the truck and various other things. How are you doing? What's up with the truck?
Well, do you have any letter from them indicating that they're taking care of the truck for you?
Nothing. They never wrote me back till the day before I got out of prison.
And then did they write you back?
They wrote me back and said, here's your address and here's our cell phone number.
What does that mean? Here's your address, here's your cell phone.
Because I wasn't sure where I was going to parole to. They were supposed to have moved within that 2-year period. And they never did end up moving.
Address.
Just a second. Why were they so... Shh, Miss Robinson, why were they so nice to you?
We've been best friends for years. We've always helped each other out.
So why would you think that they would do something that's so sinister, according to you, stealing your property?
That's why I was blown away. I couldn't believe they would do that.
Well, I don't want you to stop getting blown away, because I have to make a decision as to whether or not I believe him when he says...
He didn't...
Shh, I'm speaking.
Sorry.
Whether I believe him when he says that you said to him, listen, do what you have to do. Truck's gone anyway. I can't get the truck out. If you have to borrow money from somebody, borrow money from somebody. He even says that he was prepared to give you the truck if you wanted it when you got out. All you had to do was pay him the money that it cost him to get the truck out of impound, plus what he put into the truck. Did you say that to her?
Half. I'll sell for half of what I put into it. I'll cut that in half since I've used it.
And what did she say to you?
Basically, at first she said yes. Then the next thing I know, a couple of days, she moved out, and I haven't spoken to her since.
The day I moved out was the day he told me I couldn't have my truck back. The very next day, I went to the DMV so I could do this legally to get my truck back. And they had already told me that the previous year they took the title out of my name. A year after I was arrested.
I'm not talking about title back in your name. He said to you, give me the money that I...
And I agreed to that from the day one.
Did you give it to him?
No, I didn't have the money at the time. I was just out of prison. I wasn't a week out of prison.
Well, then you wanted your truck back without giving him any money.
I never demanded the truck that day. I told them they could keep using the truck because I realized they had work to do. They had to use their truck.
I suggest that you get a job, make some more money. The 1989 truck that he got out of impound is his. He paid for it. You would have lost it anyway. These were people that were very nice to you. No good deed goes unpunished. Do you understand?
Oh, yes.
The friendship is over?
Yes, I guess. I tried. My only was trying not to lose it.
Well, that's unfortunate. Anyway, your lawsuit's dismissed, Miss Robinson. That's all. Step out.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I bent over backwards, I think, every way I could, you know.
That's all I had left when I got out, and they knew that.
I even offered to just give back, knowing I probably never received the money.
It's more upsetting that I've lost two good friends.
Gwendolyn Suplee is suing her son's ex-girlfriend, 20-year-old photo lab tech Courtney Starr, for stealing her jewelry and video camera and pawning them to buy drugs.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 554 on the calendar in the matter of Suplee versus Starr. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Mrs. Suplee, the defendant used to be your son's girlfriend.
Yes.
Son?
Yes.
And she lived in your home for a while, according to what I read in your complaint, or stayed there?
Yes.
And she also had a drug problem. You didn't know that, I assume, at the time.
I was not aware of that.
Your complaint alleges that over a period of time, the defendant stole items from your home and pawned them.
That's correct.
You managed to get some of the things back.
That's correct.
2 items you did not, a bracelet and a video camera.
That's
you wanted
correct.
to pay for those things. Ms. Starr says that she took care of everything she stole. She got it back for you. She doesn't know anything about this bracelet or the video camera. That's your defense.
That's right.
What kind of drugs were you addicted to, Ms. Starr?
Prescription Xanax.
But you were getting it from means other than being prescribed by a doctor.
Right. I was getting it through a friend.
How long had you been addicted to Xanax?
It had been going on for about 3 months.
When were you staying at the Suplee home?
It was around last year.
When was she staying at your home?
July and August.
How did you discover the missing items?
Well, I had had minor surgery on the 2nd of September. I did not wear my jewelry that week. So the week after that, I believe it was the 13th, is when I went into my jewelry box to get these 2 rings to wear, and they weren't there. And I got very upset, and I went and woke my son up and my husband up and told them that I could not be late for work. I asked them to
see them, please?
To look around to see if they could locate them, and I left for work.
This was the 2nd week in September?
Yes. When I got to work, my husband called me and said that him and my son had found some pawn tickets in Courtney's purse. Courtney was in jail at the time. She had been arrested that weekend for a DUI. And so they went through her purse and found these pawn tickets in her purse where she had used a false ID and signed a false name on these pawn tickets, and she had taken my rings and a bunch of my other jewelry, which I didn't realize until I talked to my husband. When I called him, it dawned on me that my diamond bracelet and my opal and sapphire ring and my guan peso earrings were not in there, so I asked him to check in my jewelry box and see if those were there as well, and he looked and he said they were not there. And when he went to the pawn shop and asked them about the ring, they just kind of looked at each other like they knew what he was talking about, but they weren't going to say anything.
You're Mr. Suplee.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened when you went to the pawn shop.
The first couple I went to didn't really tell me much because in Texas you can't really discuss a pawned item. So I went to the third one, and this is the one where they kind of looked at each other, and I asked to speak to the manager, and he came out from the back, and apparently on this particular item, the large diamond ring, she didn't pawn it, she sold it.
How much did she sell it for?
$35.
How many items in total did you ultimately get back from the pawn shops?
I don't know the total number that we got back. I know that we got back everything but 2.
And you got them back because her grandmother intervened, is that right?
That's correct.
You contacted her grandmother?
Well, actually, I called her mother, and I told her mother that we were going to file charges against her for taking these items, and her mother said that she had kicked her out of the house and to do whatever we had to do. So we went down the next day and filed a police report, and I do have the police report here.
May I see it? Go ahead.
So then her grandmother called me at work and asked me what was going on, and I told her basically that Courtney had stolen some jewelry from our home and that I wanted the jewelry back and that we had filed a police report against her, and if we didn't get the jewelry back that we were going to prosecute her. So she called and talked to him.
What did she say?
She said she had discussed it with Courtney's mother and Courtney, and that she was going to go ahead and help Courtney out and apparently loan her some money.
Good. That's how you got the stuff back.
Yes, ma'am.
What didn't you get back?
We did not get back my gold peso bracelet and a video camera.
Is that a Sony video camera?
No, this is not a Sony video camera. It's a Sharp.
Did you get back a Sony video camera?
No, that was not ours. She's pawned.
Where did you get the Sony video camera?
Sony video camera?
Yeah, that you pawned.
I didn't know that there was a Sony video camera.
So it's possible that you were not in complete control of your senses at all times when you took this property and you stole from more homes than one.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. All right. You weren't missing binoculars, were you?
Well, not that I know of, but these were the rest of my jewelry that she pawned that we got back.
I'll take a
in
look
addition
at it.
to the rings.
But I see here binoculars, DVD movies, Black & Decker hedge cutter.
We did not realize those were even gone until we went to the pawn shop, and those were there. Only then did we realize that those had been taken.
Okay. All right, Miss Starr. I'm going to listen. Do you have anything to say to me?
I remember taking the jewelry, all the jewelry.
When did you take the jewelry?
It was spread out. It was like an everyday thing. It happened. It went on for a month.
So you mean each day you would go and take something else?
Mm-hmm. Just so I could go get more Xanax.
Where else did you steal from?
I also stole from my own family.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Lynn Suplee says her son's ex-girlfriend, Courtney Starr, stole her jewelry and video camera and pawned them for drugs.
How much is the gold bracelet worth?
The gold bracelet we bought 15 years ago when we went on a trip to Cancun. So since it was 15 years ago, I do not have a receipt for it, but it was $650. I have pictures of me wearing it.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
What's the son's name?
James.
James, you're going to take your father's place, please. James, you have a drug problem?
No.
Did you?
No.
Did you know that Miss Starr had a drug problem?
Well, I did in time. So we realized this was going on, and I realized that it was a problem.
I'm talking about before that.
No.
Before the jewelry episode.
No.
Had no clue?
Mm-mm.
Really?
Yeah.
How long had you been together?
Well, about 6 months.
Why did you invite her to your house?
Well, things were going pretty good, and after she started staying and spending a lot of time with me, she had lost her job, and she just kind of fell off the edge, and stuff started going downhill.
I don't know what that means.
She lost her job. We started having problems. She didn't have any money, and that's when I realized that something funny was going on. That's when I decided to check her purse for the pawn tickets right after my mom realized that the jewelry was missing.
That doesn't answer my question, James. If you're dating somebody for 6 months, you don't invite them to come to your house to stay. She has a mother, she has a grandmother. Didn't it strike you, young man, that if she wasn't welcome in her mother's house and her grandmother's house, that there might be something wrong with her?
Yeah, I mean, she's welcome at her mother's and her grandmother's house. It was...
James, what do you do?
I'm a human resource manager.
How old are you?
25.
Where do you live?
Lake Dallas, Texas.
You live at home?
Yes.
Not anymore.
I just recently moved out a few weeks ago.
Who do you live with?
2 roommates.
Perfect. That'll help him grow up. It's time. Time he wasn't tethered to your side. Do you have any other children home?
No, I do not.
Yes! When did you buy the video camera?
We bought the video camera in 1979. Here is the receipt for the video camera.
Can I see it, please?
It came from Fry Electronics.
You have receipts from 1979. You are one organized
no, I did
lady.
not. I did not. I had to call them up, and we had to get them to mail it to us. I did not have it.
Gwen.
Huh?
It wasn't 1979.
What year was it?
Well, it'll say on the receipt,
Yeah.
but it wasn't 79.
Okay.
$382, is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so let's go back. $1,060. I hope that completes the debt. I hope that you didn't take any property from anybody else. You off the stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Working?
Mm-hmm.
Where?
I am a photo tech at Walmart.
Okay, fine. Where are you living?
My parents.
Getting along all right?
Yes, I've cleaned up a lot.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
Well, so you have another 60 years to go. So you have 60 years to do it right. First couple of years weren't so hot. Make sure the last 60 are better.
Right.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,060. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I've just had a rough life. I guess it's because of my childhood.
It hurt. It hurt a lot.
I've learned to shape my life up, quit doing drugs.
We don't hate her. We don't like what she did, but we don't hate her.
I knew I needed to change.
I try to have some understanding for the fact that there was drugs involved and maybe she wasn't in her right mind. But at the same time, you make your own bed.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hooten versus Sparks. Step forward.
22-year-old student Brooke Hooten is suing her former best friend, 23-year-old aviation technician Valerie Sparks, for a loan to buy an English bulldog. Valerie says Brooke's father repossessed the dog.
Miss Hooten, according to what I read, your friend, Miss Sparks, wanted a dog. Saw one that she liked, but it was a pricey dog. You bought it from a pet store?
That's correct.
And you agreed to finance the dog for her because she had lousy credit.
Correct.
All in all, it came to almost $5,000. It was an English bulldog. The dog itself cost how much?
$3,500.
They have great dogs at the pound if you can't afford to buy a dog. And then with all of the accoutrements, it came up to how much?
$5,104, I believe, with a 21% finance fee.
Miss Sparks was supposed to pay the bill.
Correct.
She didn't.
Right.
So you did?
I had written one letter to her and trying to agree to make some kind of agreement to make a payment, something like that.
Why didn't you make a payment, Miss Sparks?
She did make one payment of $250.
When was the dog purchased?
July 17th, 2004.
And when did you make the $250 payment?
October 31st, 2004.
When was the first payment due?
September sometime.
Why didn't you make the September payment?
I had contacted the plaintiff many times and asked her to call me and tell me how much and when that bill was due. She had never told me when that payment was due or even how much it was.
No.
You took the dog back?
Yes.
When?
My father went and got the dog in late November of 2004.
So you didn't make November's payment?
No, ma'am.
Well, immediately prior to that, what was the conversation that you had with Miss Hooten?
Prior to that, I received a letter in the mail that gave me 4 options. It said first there was a promissory note that was attached with the letter.
Show me the letter.
I don't have it with me.
Well, where is it?
I do.
Can I see it, please? Where's your copy?
It's at my house. I could not find it.
Main one.
Stupid people. Stupid, impulsive people. So, Miss Hooten, I gather from this letter, you offered her, among other options, the option to have your father go down and retrieve the dog.
Correct.
And then you would sell it. That's what she opted to do.
Yes.
According to your complaint, you sold somebody the dog for $300.
Yes.
Well, that's not a good faith sale, Miss Hooten. The law ascribes to you that you will make a good faith sale so that you diminish her liability. You got it? Now, the dog is certainly at this point at least 5 months older. How old was the dog when you sold it?
3 or 4 months old.
How old was the dog when you got it?
The dog was already 2 months old when we sold it. When we bought it.
When you bought it. So the dog was now 6 months old.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, according to this letter that is in November of 2004, at that time you owed $4,000. What was the payoff on the loan?
My witness, my dad, would know. He was the one that took out the loan. And
why in the world would you do that, Mr. Hooten?
Well, between this situation, Your Honor, and also between another matter involving these two, my daughter's credit was down in the dooms. So to help her out and get things squared off, I did that for her.
You took over this loan?
Yes, ma'am.
How much was it when you took it over?
It was right at, it was $3,759, Your Honor.
Oh. You have anything else to say to me?
I was under the understanding by what Ms. Hooten told me that if the dog's repossessed, that's it. And I would owe from the time that I had the dog until the time the dog was repossessed.
It's not leasing a car.
It's almost the same thing. That's what I explained to her, is that it's almost like property. That's what it is. It is an animal.
Let me explain something to you. You agreed that this was your responsibility, not her responsibility, not her father's responsibility. You had a brain whatever and decided that you had to have a $5,000 dog.
She offered to get the loan.
True, just a second. That's a dumb thing to say.
No, ma'am.
Now, that's a dumb thing to say. How old are you?
I'm 23.
You're 23. Well, if you're 23 and you're not dumb, then if somebody says to you, listen, if your credit won't let you have the dog, but if you're prepared to pay me back, I'll loan you the money, I'll take out the loan, and she's your friend, then you say, if you don't have sawdust in your brains, you say, no, I'm not going to take on another responsibility because I really can't afford it. The loan that your father paid off was $3,750.
Correct.
You got $300, according to you, for the dog. I am ascribing the value of the dog at $1,200. Now, you say that she paid you $250. Correct? Okay. So then what she owes you is $2,550. Mr. Hooten, what other financial interaction did your daughter have with the defendant and her witness?
With her defendant, just this matter, Your Honor. The witness.
How are you related to her?
I'm her fiance.
She was a fiance at the time of this whole incident.
He was my fiance at the time of this whole incident occurred.
He was your fiance?
Yes.
I got it. Got it.
Big mess.
Say no more.
Don't want to go there.
I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,550. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I told her my life story, and she ran with it, I guess you could say.
Things happened between the three parties, and it just stopped.
I lost my fiance, and we're no longer friends.
I'm just glad it's all over with, and I never have talked to her again.
I love Marilyn. She was a very, very, very sweet dog, and I'm glad that she has a good home now.
For rental car damage and lost wages.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2174, Brown Dupree versus Freeman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, who's the business person?
It's us.
That would be you?
Yes.
Your name is Mr. Dupree.
Mr. Dupree.
You a couple?
No, ma'am. It's business partners.
In what business?
Car rental.
How do you know each other?
We met from the military.
So you're not a couple, you're just in business together. I just want to know. Don't both smile. I just want to know. Let's go.
We're friends. Yeah, we're friends. We're friends.
What? This is not going to happen for me.
We're not a couple. We know we're friends, and we decided to go in business together.
Where do you live?
Houston, Texas.
Where does she live?
Houston,
Texas.
Houston, Texas.
Does she live in the same place that you do?
In the same home?
In the same place, building?
Oh, no, we don't.
Who do you live with?
Myself.
Who does she live with?
Herself.
When did you meet in the military?
Maybe 2021. Not really sure exactly what month.
Now, if you're in business together, is the only business you had this one car that we're...
Yes, we was just starting.
What kind of work do you do?
Crane operation.
Full-time?
Yes.
And what about you?
I work at a call center.
So that's your primary source of income?
That's correct.
Yes.
And you decided to do this car rental as sort of a side gig?
Yes.
We had just got out the military, so we didn't have a job then. So we did it for a primary source of income.
Well, you can't have one car that you rent as a primary source of income.
We have our...
Where did you serve?
Norfolk, Virginia, and Mayport, Florida. Jacksonville, Florida.
So you were never out of the United States?
Yes, I went overseas for deployments, but never stationed.
But where did you go on your deployment?
Bahrain, Dubai, Greece, Italy, all over.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah, good. Yeah. What about you?
Only Virginia.
Only Virginia?
Only Virginia.
How did you become disabled in Virginia?
I have no idea.
I mean, you said you're on a military disability, so, I could understand if you deployed someplace else.
I have no idea.
You have no idea what?
Why, I guess, became disabled. Just mentally, I guess. Mental.
Well, you applied for a disability from the Army.
You said what?
What?
I said mentally.
Just my own curiosity. I have to see how this is going. How much is your disability benefit from the Army?
$2,000.
A month? It's not an answer. Yes is an answer. What about you?
Same.
And is your disability mental or physical?
Both.
Well, your physical disability doesn't inhibit you from being a crane operator.
No, not really.
Great. I love America. Okay, so now you're out, you're both on disability from the Army. You don't have a job yet, so you decide to buy a Mercedes.
That's correct.
What year Mercedes? How much?
$350
per month.
Yes.
How much of a loan did you take out?
23, one of them. It's not too much.
Car was only 22.
The car was 22.
I don't know the exact number that the car is right now, but it was between 21 and 23,000 that we owed on it. And I took the loan out.
Where is the car now?
In Texas.
With whom?
She has it right now.
What was the rental agreement that you had with Miss Freeman? You didn't form a business corporation or anything else, am I correct?
Yes, we have an LLC.
And the sole asset is this car?
Yes.
You bought the car when? Give me the date again.
I think it was in July.
July of 2022?
That's correct.
And when did you rent the car to the defendant?
August 27th.
Do you have the rental agreement?
I don't have the original agreement because it was in my car that was stolen, but I made her take a picture with her driver's license and send it to me. So this is a copy, and this is before she signed it.
And I have after I signed.
It's literally the same thing.
Just
And so you know
let her talk.
Okay. What I'd like you to do is take a look at this, Ms. Freeman, and tell me if you have it. It's the same.
Yes,
what does she
ma'am.
have? Okay. And this is the entire agreement. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Selena Brown and Trayon Dupree claim their customer, Brianna Freeman, owes for damages to their Mercedes rental car. Brianna is countersuing for lost wages.
So there's nothing to the car. She is responsible to use her insurance, and you have a policy number, your policy number for insurance. Okay. So your boyfriend was driving the car on what date?
The 1st.
1st of what?
September. And I have the accident report if you want that.
Not yet. I may. Not yet. But there was an accident and the car was damaged.
Correct.
Anybody have a photograph of the damage to the car?
I have it on my phone if you would like to see that.
I would.
While we're waiting, Your Honor, I found the LLC filing that lists both of them as the
principals.
As the principals, but they list the same address for both of them. Their residents are listed as the same.
Oh, really? Interesting. Want to say that a little louder?
I just said I found both of them listed as managing members of the LLC with the same address for both of them listed.
I lived in a different
Yeah,
state
she
when we
lived-
started. I was in Florida.
We don't live together. That's what y'all are saying.
It just lists.
Yeah,
lists
that's
as
just
place
the
of business
LLC
as well.
address.
It's in my boyfriend's phone because the number that's on the contract was his phone at the time. So if you want to see.
I had a picture right here.
And I have multiple pictures as well.
Of the car?
That's correct.
Well, that's what I'm asking you for. I said I want to see pictures of the damage to the car. You were in an accident?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you agreed in this contract that if you were in an accident, Brianna, that would be you,
yes,
will use her insurance if anything happens during the rental. Brianna will be responsible to pay out of pocket.
Correct.
You signed that?
Correct.
Okay, so you were in an accident. I don't care whose fault it is because it doesn't have anything to do with fault. Picture of...
As well.
Stand up. Somebody hit you in the rear?
No, in the front.
Oh, this is the front
They
of the
ran
car.
a stop sign.
What?
They ran a stop sign. I was coming up, they were coming across.
Well, whatever. You had damage in the front of your car. In my mind, that usually means that you hit somebody.
No, they came across from me. They ran a stop sign in front of me.
And you hit them. Okay, well, that's what it usually means, that you hit somebody in the front. Okay, and that was on September 1st.
All right.
Did you notify your insurance company?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to see proof of that.
So these are the claims, the quotes they gave me to fix the car. Also, this is when I let her know, Ms. Brown, what was covered under my policy.
I'd like to see it.
So that's that. It shows what's covered in my policy.
Was the car fixed?
Absolutely
No.
not.
It was not?
Not at all.
Why not?
Because I didn't talk to Trayon, Mr. Dupree, however you say his name, until the day, September the 5th. All of my business was going through Mrs. Brown. So I don't know if he just found out what happened. But when I called the insurance on the 1st, they let me know that he was the owner of the vehicle. I said, okay. They said they'll have to go through everything through him so that the car can get fixed because I wasn't the title holder. I said, that's fine. I said, okay, due to the fact that the car got wrecked, I let her know that once the car goes to Mercedes-Benz to get fixed, they give a loaner vehicle. I let them know everything that was covered. Why it didn't get fixed? Because she popped up to my home and caused drama. I lost my job behind it, so forth and so on.
What does that have to do with your responsibility? Your boyfriend had an accident with a car. You have a contract that says you're going to fix it.
Because Trayon said it wasn't enough.
What do you mean Trayon said it wasn't enough?
I sent him the quote.
I'd like to see your quote from your company. Where did you take the car for them to send an adjuster to take a look at the car?
I had to take pictures of the car and upload it to the app they sent me, and that's how they got those quotes.
They have an estimate here of $3,000. Did you get an estimate to fix the car?
Yes, we got an estimate.
I'd like to see it.
In person.
In person. That was just the picture, and when I
Okay, got it.
May I interject a little bit? Because Brianna kind of lying, and she raised her right hand. So Brianna didn't notify us that the car was wrecked until September 3rd. She told us that she was in the hospital with her dying father.
Listen to me. Listen to me. I don't care.
She lied about
I don't care.
She lied about how the car got wrecked.
I don't care. It doesn't matter how the car got wrecked. She has an obligation to fix it. She has an obligation to fix it. And to be quite honest with you, this is a Mercedes, and this car can't be fixed for $2,900. Can't. He's absolutely right. This car can't be fixed based upon that damage. And he wasn't prepared to say here.
No, it wasn't that at all. So once, I guess, he got involved in the business, I was talking to Ms. Brown. She said she had a rental the next day or something in that manner. And I said, okay, well, let me find a Mercedes-Benz that can actually get your car in so you can get this loaner car for you to rent your car out. Also, in the midst, own a car and can accept your car at the time.
Well, they couldn't fix this car for $2,900.
That's what they gave me, and they said that if it went to a Mercedes-Benz shop, they will honor that.
I don't know that at all.
That's what they told me.
I don't care.
But regardless of the price of getting the car fixed, I was going to pay because I know that we was at fault for it. Quote, unquote, it was my contract that I signed. That wasn't an issue.
Well, then you can take that up with your insurance company.
Correct. I didn't have a problem with paying.
Yeah, then you can take it up with your insurance company.
Selena Brown and Trayon Dupree have accused their customer, Brianna Freeman, of damaging their Mercedes rental car after her boyfriend was in an accident.
He has an estimate that looks like a pretty legitimate estimate. They bought the car. It's a relatively new car. They paid $22,000 for it. Your boyfriend wrecked it, and he has an estimate which looks reasonable for $8,000 to fix it. And if your insurance company is dragging their heels and not paying what they should, you take that up with your insurance company.
I never got that quote, by the way.
Which quote?
The quote that the $8,000. I never got that.
Well, I'm going to show it to you.
Oh, it's probably be true.
$8,319.
Her insurance denied it because she lied. She lied about how the accident happened. So they denied.
Hey, don't listen to me. You started to say that before. I told you I don't care.
My insurance.
Just a second.
Your insurance what?
Never denied the claim.
I have proof. I talked to him. I have proof. I have the email where he said they denied it because.
They definitely denied it.
Because I told them to stop because she popped up at my house.
Because she lied about the accident. Because we tried to get it through our insurance as well.
I don't know why you're arguing. It doesn't appear, madam,
it doesn't appear as if you are losing this case. So I don't know why you feel compelled to make it hostile. I don't understand why. You okay? Good. Your car is in this condition at whose house? At your house?
That's correct.
And the car, since the accident, which was 4 months ago, has it been rented?
No.
No. Is it drivable?
Yes, it's drivable.
When was the last time you drove it?
Last week.
When was the last time you rented it?
Since Brianna.
Have you been making the payments on the car?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's been making the payments?
Both.
What is the monthly payment?
$350.
$350. You told me that. The insurance up to date?
So we had insurance. We had commercial insurance on it. But when I put in the claim and told them what happened, because we did get lied to about what actually happened, and we didn't get informed of the accident till the 3rd. But when I put in the claim, I put it in how they told us what happened. And my insurance, they found the police report before we did, and they seen what actually happened. So they felt like we was trying to do fraud. So the guy, he told us it's better for us to pull the claim because it's going to look like it's fraud on our part. So they dropped us from the insurance.
So they dropped you after?
Yes.
After the accident?
Yes.
Can I see the police report now? Well, this police report indicates that the other person was at fault.
That was my... Oh, sorry.
Am I wrong about that?
No, ma'am.
No, then don't speak. This police report, did you see it?
Yes. Got it right here.
I'd like to see what you have. This police report clearly says that Unit 1, which was the woman, ran a stop sign. That's what it says. Why would your insurance company drop you?
Because we gave the story that she told us, so it looks like we're doing fraud.
Yeah.
And basically, ignorance isn't an excuse for them. So.
Actually, that's pretty outrageous.
We was told it was a hit and run.
She told us it was a hit and run, so we told them that. She said she was in the hospital when it got hit, and then we found the report. She waited until the day that we had a rental to tell us. We had another rental on the 3rd that afternoon. She told us that morning.
On the 3rd?
That's correct.
And the accident was on the 1st?
That's correct.
Okay. I think you have to get your car fixed. I think that the fact that your insurance company canceled your insurance when it was clear that he was not at fault in this accident, at least according to the police report, is actually pretty outrageous that they canceled your insurance. Is there any insurance on the car now?
Yes, there's regular insurance on it.
Not commercial anymore?
No, not right now because we're not renting it.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $8,000. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I'm glad we won and everything. I felt like, we deserved more than we got, but at the end of the day, we won the case. I'm not mad at the decision.
I'm fine with it regardless because I know I was trying to get it fixed. It was just a timing issue.
She lied about everything. She literally lied about everything. She come basically get the car and the keys in the mailbox, and when I went over there to get it, she pulled a gun out on me because I took my wig off.
She posted stuff saying I lied about things. I pulled my gun out on her. Like, girl, I don't have a gun, at all.
I think that they put it inside, so they checked them. But they said they couldn't go inside, so they checked their body.
They checked them. They wasn't able to prove that they had a gun because,
So she said it was a gun, it was a bat, and I had to get checked twice by the police officer. And it was like, she came over here looking for problems because the car was gonna get towed.
It's definitely a risk, but, make sure we're prepared for stuff like that from now on.
No hard feelings, supporting black businesses, but it is what it is. You know what you know, it's just fact.
I think I should just be grateful. I'm just gonna be quiet and just be grateful.
I'm sitting here trying to think of what the takeaway is on this case, and I can't think of the takeaway.
I mean, I'm having a hard time as well, but I think accountability and responsibility could be a good one. The defendant knows what she signed, that any damage to the car from her boyfriend, her, anyone while the car was in her possession is on her. But what we see a lot of is emotional issues come into play when people know their responsibility, but then there's an emotional issue. She came to my job, she harassed me, she came to my house and yelled at me, whatever it is. and they think they can use that as a justification to get out of their accountability. And although I'm not promoting going to someone's house for some self-help, you know, that's not a reason for you not to follow through on your responsibility.
On your contractual responsibility.
Yes. Which she was clearly aware of. So maybe that.
That's the takeaway.
During an accident.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2163, Raquel versus Talon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Rocco, this is basically what the case is about. You and the defendant were in a relationship. You have one child together. And it is your claim that some 3 years ago, he took your car with your permission. You were living together at the time. He took your car and had an accident.
Correct, yes.
And that was 3 years ago. And you want him to pay $5,000 on a car that Sarah has already checked, which is worth...
Between $1,400 and $3,000.
Which is worth a quarter of that. Do you understand?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I want you to forget about $5,000. So if he's responsible for anything for the car, he's responsible for what its value is, which is about $1,400. How long had you been living together when he borrowed the car?
About a year.
Okay. And was your child born during that time?
Yes.
What month and year was the child born?
August 2018.
When was the first time that you asked Mr. Talon for money for this car that had been in an accident?
After he was released from jail, he got arrested from a previous warrant at the scene of the accident, directly from the hospital. So when he was released from jail.
What was the date of the accident?
April 30th, 2019.
And how long were you held in jail, sir?
I believe June 11th or so, roughly almost 6 weeks.
What was the warrant for?
Domestic battery.
Against whom?
Against Eve.
Against her?
Against Eve. Yes, against her.
Well, you were living together. Did you file another complaint after the accident?
No, I didn't. There was a warrant from the initial complaint.
And what year was that?
That was...
Withdraw that case.
I did withdraw it. I didn't realize that a warrant had been released until it was acted upon.
Well, when he was arrested and he was held in jail, he contacted you, correct?
Yes.
Of course he did, because he said, what's going on? We're living together. We have a child. What's this warrant for domestic battery?
It just took time for me to get it dismissed.
No. What I'm asking you is, he contacted you.
Yes.
And when he was released in June of 2019, where did he go to live?
He came back.
For what period of time?
About a month, maybe 2 months at the most.
And you lived together as a couple with the baby?
Yes.
And how old was the baby at the time?
He would have been about between 6 and 8 months off the top of my head.
And the two of you cared for him?
Yes.
And during that 2 or 3 month period, there was no discussion that you have in writing about paying back for the car?
Not in writing.
Not in writing?
Yeah.
Now, what happened after the 2 months?
He began exhibiting behaviors that were the behaviors of somebody who was using drugs. Again, he was clean for a long period of time, and his attitude changed, his behaviors changed, and I decided that it was time for him to go back to his mother's house.
And he did?
Correct, yes.
It was after a couple of months?
Yes.
So that would have been in maybe August or September. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in August or September. Did he continue to see his son?
For them to visit.
And how long did you do that?
Up until recently. For pretty much
recently, so you're talking about 19, 20, 21.
Yes.
Right? And
there was a period of time where, because he was living with his mother at first, there was a period of time where I didn't know where he was living. It made me uncomfortable that I was bringing my son, even though they were visiting at his mother's house. It made me uncomfortable that he wouldn't let me know an address for him, just in case anything happened, just in case, anything happened, basically. He didn't give me an address for me to find him or for me to know where Eden might be if anything were to happen.
So what I'm getting is, for 3 years after this accident, there was no request that you can demonstrate. Now, you weren't together, certainly, so for the last 2 years, you never went and filed claiming that he owed you money for the car.
So I did. Sorry.
Is that correct?
No, I did attempt to file several times, but I didn't have an address for him. I tried to file once for an address where he was at his mother's.
Do you have any proof of that?
I do not.
No. You continued to bring your son for visitation with his father
Correct.
Which is a very easy thing to do. You're a smart enough gal. I'm gathering that. You bring a friend, you serve him personally with a summons and complaint. So the answer is for 3 years you did nothing. Now I'm going to find out why. After 3.5 years, you filed this complaint over a $1,400 car.
Eve Rocchio claims her ex-boyfriend, Andrew Talon, owes for totaling her car. Andrew is countersuing for emotional distress and attorney fees after Eve took their son.
Okay. You did nothing. Now I'm going to find out why. After 3.5 years, you filed this complaint over a $1,400 car. Now, Mr. Talon says in his cross-complaint that there came a time when you left the state, the jurisdiction, that was the child's home state.
Yes.
And when did you leave the jurisdiction?
That was in September of 2021.
And you went from where to where?
We went from Florida. We stopped in South Carolina for a period of time. We had a little vacation before we had to go, because we were going to work. We were going to clear a property out for sale.
So you left the jurisdiction with the child?
Yes.
Prior to that, Mr. Talon had been seeing the child regularly at his mother's house?
Yes.
Did you tell him you were leaving?
Yes.
What did he say when you told him you were leaving?
He didn't really say anything. He just wanted to spend time with him, which he was, they did spend time together before we left.
Not before. After you left, you moved to New Jersey.
I didn't move to New Jersey.
What did you do?
So, like I said, we went there to liquidate a house that we have there. It took longer than expected.
How long?
It took about 5 months, 6 months. Things happened with the closing. Deals were made and fell through.
How long did you tell him you were going to be away?
I was only supposed to be away for 2 weeks.
That's a big deal, Miss Rockhill. That's a big deal.
It is.
Because if he says, I'm taking Eden for a 2-week vacation, if that's okay. I know you took him away. I'd like to take him away for a 2-week holiday. And he goes away for 6 months. You wouldn't like that. Equally when they have a child. If you said to him, I'm going away for 6 months, and he said, okay, well, then you agree to. But you said, we'll be away for 2 weeks. And it lasted longer.
Yes,
and during the time that it lasted longer, about 6 months longer than it was supposed to, what arrangements did you make for your son to see his father?
They had video calls regularly. I told him I would be back as soon as I could.
Just a second. So the answer is, you did not make any, because he has a counterclaim here.
Yes.
And his counterclaim is for the fact that you took the child out of the jurisdiction and deprived him of the ability to see the child. Subsequently, due to circumstances, and I'm not sure what that is, the child is no longer in your custody.
Temporary.
The child is no longer in your custody. The child is in the physical custody of the paternal grandmother. Is that correct? And that is by court order?
Yes.
The beginning of that process was made in what month and year?
July of 2022.
Was that a child protective proceeding?
It was, yes.
And I assume that if there was a child protective proceeding, that the court found that based upon whatever was alleged in the petition that was not brought by him, but by the Department of Social Services or Child Welfare Administration, they found that the child would be at risk in your custody.
Yes.
And as a result of that, they took the child into care. And this is all stuff, because I've been here. This is my bread and butter. Instead of placing the child in a strange foster home, they placed the child with the defendant's mother.
Correct.
For how long a period? 18 months?
Indefinite. There's no specified period of time. However,
well, if the court is placing a child through the state, unless you relinquish your parental rights. Did you do that?
No, I didn't.
To see whether either one of you, as parents, are ready to assume custody of the child, right? So when is this case going to be reviewed?
I believe the next review is in February.
February of this year?
This year, correct, yes.
That's a reasonable answer, so that you do know. So that's the change in circumstance. Now, getting back, Ms. Rockhill, to what motivated you after 3 years, after you gave him permission to drive the car and he had an accident, and you made up this whole baloney story in your complaint that says, police arrested Andrew at the scene of the accident because I had previously filed a domestic abuse charge against him and there was a warrant. But you were living together during the time that there was this outstanding warrant. You were living together and conceived a child with him.
The child was already conceived. He was already born at the time of the domestic violence altercation. He was about
2018?
In the end of 2018, yes. He was born in August. The altercation happened in November. So he was very young.
But you reunited and were living together with him as a family.
Yes.
Right. The police arrested Andrew Bent on a domestic abuse charge, and there was a warrant. When Andrew was released from jail, he disappeared.
So
that's what, just a second. That's what you say here. He disappeared. My car was fully paid off, and I had no liability insurance. Andrew refused to pay for my total car, and he refused to see our son. He moved and went into hiding. That's what you signed. That's your complaint. Oh, you knew exactly where he was until you moved out of the jurisdiction to New Jersey for 6 months, because he had been regularly seeing his son at his mother's house.
But he wasn't living at his mother's house.
It doesn't make any difference. That's not what you say here. He may not have been living there. He may not have wanted you to know where he was living.
He didn't, and that's
well,
why. So I
that's
filed
okay.
Against
He doesn't have to tell you where he's living. Unless a judge orders him, he doesn't have to tell you where he's living. You were having visitation at his mother's house. So all of this stuff after the accident is all a bunch of baloney.
Eve Rockhill has accused her ex-boyfriend, Andrew Talon, of totaling her car. Andrew claims Eve kept him from seeing their son.
You knew exactly where he was until you moved.
I didn't, though. He was not living at his mother's house at the time. That was just a place that he was visiting with Eden that I would bring him to.
Perfect. So you would set the terms of that, and the terms were that he could see the child even without a court order because he was his father and had lived with him after he got out of jail.
Yes.
Lived with him, but you don't say here. After he got out of jail.
But I didn't put that.
I don't think you have a case. He drove the car with your permission. You were living together as a couple. You have a child together. Your case is dismissed. Now, I want you to tell me, sir, you have a counterclaim for her kidnapping your son. She left the jurisdiction. You called Child Protective Services.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me when you called Child Protective Services, because that's the reason that this lawsuit came about.
The last time I saw him before she left to stay with him was September 19th. Me and my family, we went to SeaWorld, and she was supposed to meet me. She said when we dropped off that she was going to meet me in Tampa. And when I called her, she said that she was in Jacksonville. She lives in Ocala, so she was still 2 hours northeast of where she lived, and she wasn't in Tampa. So I just decided just to take him home rather than argue. I took him home, and troubling.
Was there a neglect proceeding?
For this?
The baby.
I had an interview with the caseworker or the investigator initially.
Were you there in court when your mother was granted? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Miss Rockhill?
Yes, she was there too.
You see your son regularly?
Yes, ma'am.
So the period of time when you did not see him was a 6-month period, is that right?
That was the second time. Yeah, it happened the year prior. She did it before too, where she removed him from school. Since I moved home in 2019, we've shared custody periodically until she decides that she wants to take him and not allow me to see him, or for whatever reason. I think it's a control thing, and this was the second time. My counterclaim is for the second time.
How long was the first time?
Roughly the same time, 5 months, 6 months.
Where did you go the first time?
I didn't go anywhere. I actually received a text from his mother, Angel, to come pick up Eden. Andrew was using drugs again, and come pick up Eden would be easiest to do it while he was at school to avoid potentially traumatizing Eden.
Did you send that email?
I did not send her an email, no.
Not a text message.
I sent her a text message.
Okay, just a second. You're his mother. Come. You sent her a text message. That's not something that she would make up, because I'm going to ask to see it. She's going to show me. So did there come a time when you were concerned that your son was using drugs? That's either a yes or a no. Yes. And was it at that time that you suggested she come and pick up Eden?
I told her to pick him up from school. I didn't tell her to come pick up Eden and take off for 5 months.
I didn't. Lived the entire time. He could have come up and seen him. We could have met somewhere. I
don't know. You did, in fact, remove him the second time for 6 months.
The second time, yes. I not purposefully to keep him away from Andrew. We had business to attend to, and it ended up taking a lot longer than it
Now you see him.
should have.
Now you see him all the time. Is that right?
I live back at home again. Once this happened, because...
Just a second. So you live back at home with your mother?
Yes, I see him every day.
Since when?
I've been living back at home for, I think, roughly a month or so.
Where are you working?
I work for a solar company.
For how long?
I went to jail for DUI last year. I got out. That's why I'm having to do the case plan because of my DUI. That was in like August 1st is when I started this job.
Okay, you working?
I am, yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a dental assistant.
Did you have a trial in the family court?
Not yet. We're still awaiting adjudication.
A full custody?
Yes.
But the child is with you under the auspices of Child Protective Services?
Yes, her trial is the 13th of February.
For the neglect case?
Yes.
Is that correct? You have a lawyer there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Your case against the respondent for the damage to the car 3 years ago is dismissed. Likewise is your action against her for attorney's fees, the custody. Are you appearing in that custody case?
I'm almost complete with my case plan. I will be there for that. Yes, ma'am.
Good. So I suggest we not say anything nasty about each other,
Yes, ma'am.
because there is always that strong probability that you're going to have to co-parent this child.
It's never been a problem in the past.
Good. Very good. Case is dismissed. We're done.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I don't want to be a part of his life. I want him to have a part of his child's life, as I always have and have always done my best to make sure that he has.
I couldn't tell you. I think she was just, maybe he was just
expecting.
I feel like sometimes our son was used in a way to hurt me.
Things happened with the sale of the house and the closing of the house. Deals were dropped. We were just trying to get rid of it, and it took longer than expected.
It's hard to see the fighting and just the separation of the family.
I was just worried. I was in mom mode, and I was worried because I know what he's capable of. I've been exposed to him while he was exhibiting behaviors that would be damaging and traumatizing to Eden.
This is my past. I mean, it's true. I'm not the same person, but
I just want to be the best parent I can be.
I hope we can parent our son together.
Sarah, there are lots of tentacles in that case.
There were?
Yeah. But if you try to take all those tentacles that we really don't have jurisdiction over, I think that they said that custody is ongoing. If you remove all those tentacles, there was an accident 3 years ago. And despite the fact that she really knew where he was, where he could be served, because she regularly brought the child over to him. And he said that for a good part of that time, she had 50-50 custody. She was perfectly comfortable with Eden staying with his paternal grandmother. Case was really about this car.
Yeah.
And he had an accident 3 years ago. They lived together, they slept together, they shared a child together. And now that he notified Child Protective Services of what he saw when he brought the child home, and she physically lost custody after an investigation, that's the motivation for filing this now.
A demolition work.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2115, Atar versus Rose.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Atar, you were hired to do some, according to you, demolition work and other work at a property owned by Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes. You gave them an estimate for that work. I think the estimate was $11,500. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it was outlined what work you were supposed to do. You started that work, and according to you, at some point there was disagreement with either or both of the Rhodeses, and they stopped payment on a check that they gave you.
Correct.
And the check that they gave you was for $4,200. And then you stopped work for them.
Yes, ma'am, we're finished.
So you're suing them for the canceled check and for other unpaid work that you did that you didn't get paid for.
Correct.
Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes say that they were not satisfied with the quality of your work. It cost them $9,000 to both replace things that were stolen from their property by either you or members of your team, something which I don't think that you question that somebody from your team, not you, somebody from your team may have taken metal property of theirs that they didn't own. So let's go back. Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes, is this a new property to you, or is this a property that you owned for a while?
It's a new property to us.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So is it a private house?
Yes, and we were remodeling it.
Okay, when did you purchase it?
We purchased in January of 2021.
Is it a single-family residence? Yes. How much did you pay for it?
$769,000.
Describe the property to me.
It's in northern Altaloma or Rancho Cucamonga. It's an acre property, has 2 levels on it, and a single-family ranch-style home on it right now. And what we asked him to do was demolition the lower half.
Do you have a photograph?
I do.
I'd like to look at the photograph of what you wanted him to do.
That's what the lower half looked like before.
So this whole portion you wanted him
correct
to demolish, and remove the debris.
And grade flat.
Fill it in.
Remove all the debris.
Yes.
Okay. And did you have a written contract?
We did not.
Well, that's always a mistake.
Always.
How did you find him?
I believe I got his business card. It was on my personal car, I think at Home Depot. We had bought this house and we tried to find somebody to do the work, but...
Mr. Rhodes, let me tell you that the best way to find somebody is not somebody who leaves a card on your car at Home Depot or any place else.
It was a difficult time to find contractors with COVID and everything at that time.
And at the time, I'm also going to add, because I read in the paper somewhere at the time, he didn't have a license.
He did not.
And you knew he didn't have a license.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I told him, Your Honor. I do not
Just a second. They didn't say no, we didn't know. They said we knew. So you got somebody who had no license to do what you wanted him to do, and you got his number from a card that he left on your windshield. Did you ask for references? That's either a yes or a no.
No, and I'm not really sure actually 100% on where I found that card. I think
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean,
but he did tell us he was in the process of getting his license, that it was coming.
Yeah. I know.
What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. You're two intelligent people. Okay. So you hired an unlicensed contractor to do work on your house and agreed to pay him $11,500. Now, Mr. Rattar, the $11,000 included labor and materials. Is that correct?
There was no material. It was labor and bins.
Well, that's material. Labor and bins to remove
Yes, ma'am.
all the equipment that you needed
Yes, ma'am.
to complete the job.
Yes, ma'am. I
Is
got
that
pictures
correct?
of before, too, of what I was supposed to do, and I took a picture.
Well, no, I have that.
You have the wrong picture, Your Honor.
Okay, I'd like to see the picture that he has.
I was supposed to do from the post all the way to the other post, remove everything, and the pool and the deck.
Mr. Rattar, the $11,500 was an...
Correct.
From what I'm piecing together, you hired somebody in a Bobcat to do a Bobcat. That's a big piece of equipment that knocks down something.
I rented a Bobcat.
And somebody who operated it.
My worker.
You didn't know how to operate the Bobcat.
I know how to operate Bobcat, but I was controlling the demolition site, ma'am. I was like many things
Just a
was going at the
second.
same time. I had to control everything.
Mr. Rattar, something happened with the Bobcat, the original one that you got. What happened with it?
It broke down on us.
No, it didn't break down on them. It broke down on you.
On us.
It broke down on you.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I took it back, and next day supposed to deliver me another one, but they sent me a drunk driver and another broken down Bobcat. I returned it. At that moment, I asked Mrs. Rhodes, can you please go down Home Depot, which is like a mile away, so we don't stop wasting time, rent the Bobcat.
Just a second. Why should she rent a Bobcat, sir? Your $11,500 included the Bobcat.
But I paid for
No. If you're going to pay for it, that's one thing. Then what are you sending her for? If your $11,500 figure included all materials, then she doesn't have to rent a Bobcat. If you rented one that didn't work, rent one that works. How much of a down payment did they give you?
Presume was $4,000.
When did you start the job?
I started the job on 15th of January.
When did you leave the job?
I was asked to leave on the 2nd of February.
On February 2nd?
Yes, ma'am. Not to go back, I will call the cops on you.
Between January 15th and February 2nd, other than the $4,000, did they give you any other money?
Yes, Your Honor, they did.
How much money did they give you?
They gave me up to $7,000.
So they gave you an additional $3,000?
Yes, and $1,000 check.
Your Honor, that was within the first week we gave him.
It doesn't matter to me. My question was between January 15th and February 2nd, they gave you $7,000.
Correct.
Explain the other $4,200, which is the check that they stopped payment on.
Okay. I'll happily explain to you. The Bobcat she rented for me on her behalf, it cost $329 to rent per day. And I rented for 1 day only, but they...
Do you have a photograph of what the property looked like when you left?
Yes, ma'am. The last picture I took before I was kicked out of the property.
You're talking, I'm not listening to you.
Michael Attar, claims his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, owe for unpaid demolition work. Mary and Michael are countersuing for lost wages, equipment rental, and missing property.
Now, they paid you $7,000.
Correct.
They wrote you another check.
The final check was supposed to be $5,000, but they only gave me $4,200 because they mined $800 for the Bobcat rental.
Just a second. First of all, the total bill wasn't 7 and 5. 7 and 5, even my rudimentary math, is $12,000. That would be $500 more than your agreed contract, which was for 11.5.
They gave me $6,500 because they gave me small checks. They gave me the first initial
Just a
check,
second.
and they gave me smaller ones.
Sir, you're the businessman, whether you have a license or not. I asked you before how much money did they give you between January 15th and February 2nd, and you said $7,000.
I didn't write it down, Your Honor.
Well, you're here asking for money, and you have to write it down. You have to have
work
some.
I've done performed already. And
No, sir.
And I just did the job, Your Honor. I did 7, 8 other side jobs for
I don't care whether you did 7 or 8 side jobs. Your original agreement with them was for $11,500, including all material. Now, what you said to me was that they gave you $7,000, and you said they're supposed to give me another 5. Well, another 5 is more than your quote.
Ma'am, the balance was 5.
How?
The initial check, then they gave me $1,000, $1,000, $1,000.
How much money did you give them all together that he cashed?
$7,000.
Then they owed you $4,500, pursuant to your agreement.
We agreed to $11,000, not $11,500.
$11,500, Your Honor.
And it will indicate that it's $11,500. If they gave you 7, they don't owe you 5. They owed you the difference between $11,500 and the 7 that they gave you. Now, one of the things that you disputed, Mr. Attar, was this Bobcat. Who paid for the Bobcat? Show me.
They minus it from the final price.
Just a second. Was that an argument?
The argument about it is, Your Honor, is they rented for 1 day, but they charged me 2 days, $800. There's no Bobcat rental for $800 for 2 days. I got.
Do you have the bill for the Bobcat?
I do, yes. And it was for 2 days.
Go over a certain time.
Because it was returned late. So they charged a second day. But in his text messages, he did request it for 2 days.
Is that the total price?
Yes, and I did not subtract it from his payment.
Total contract was $652.74?
Yes.
Do you have a photograph of what the property looked like when you left?
Yes, ma'am. The last picture I took before I was kicked out of the property.
You're talking, I'm not listening to you. Just show me a picture.
Yes, ma'am. This is not a picture.
Mr. Attar, you're the businessman.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your company.
Yes, ma'am.
Company requires, A, a license before you operate, which you didn't have.
If you do.
B, it requires a written contract. You're the businessman. They're people who bought a house who got your number off a windshield someplace. You're the businessman, and you want the parameters. You want them fixed. So I don't know if it's 11,000 or 11,500. Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Right. Well, that's your mistake. You look as if you've probably been in business for a long time.
14 years.
And is what you're telling me you don't have written contracts?
All my contracts are verbal.
Then how many times have you been in court, sir?
Never.
Never.
I never had a stop payment check. Never paid me on time, Your Honor.
It's a problem. So when you finished, the debris wasn't all removed.
That wood, they kept telling me, don't touch it. Their neighbor, cousin, whoever's going to come pick it up. That was just cut cord wood.
No. There's brick. There's wood, there's cement.
We cleaned all that. I personally cleaned all that.
Just a second. What I asked you, Mr. Attar, was show me a picture.
Did more. I wasn't taking pictures. I wasn't expecting somebody to stop payment on a check, Your Honor. I was not expecting that.
What it looked like when he left.
What about after
Well, what are you showing me here? This brick that's here?
They piled it there and then left it there.
Well, that's probably a good one.
No, it was supposed to be removed.
So this is the back.
That's the picture of the sagging patio because he removed part of the supports that were holding up the patio that he wasn't supposed to. So it's now sagging.
Now, this is the picture that you gave me when you told me this is what you wanted, leveled, cleared, and made flat.
Right.
Now, I want to see your picture of what this looked like when he left.
You have it. It's in some of those photos.
Flat leveled.
You're talking about this?
Yeah.
That's part of it. The close-ups, that's part of it.
Well, it looks like most of the stuff is done. It looked like a lot of cleanup left.
No, ma'am, we done all the cleanup.
Well, I haven't seen that, so then what you're supposed to do is take a photograph.
It was also buried underneath. These are the photos of when we did it ourselves and really leveled it out. And as we were doing that, we found so much buried underneath that should have been removed, but his Bobcat person buried it all.
Your Honor.
Mean buried
all the debris, all the concrete brick.
Okay, let me see the bill from the...
No, we did it ourselves. We rented equipment and did it ourselves on his vacation.
Oh, nice. Okay, $4,500 is so far what's owed on this contract. Now, your counterclaim is money owed for lost work, equipment rentals, labor and missing damages to property. What money owed for lost work?
During the second week that he was working, he called and said that his crew had left. This was the second day of supposed to be use of the Bobcat that I rented.
Okay, if you interrupt me again, I'm just dismissing your case. Do you understand?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good.
So
just explain lost work. Who's lost work?
His.
Living there. Okay. He wants to go? Go. I'm not interested in his lost wages for taking care of his house. So far, you owe the man the balance on his contract unless you had somebody else do it, which is absolutely fine. And I would look at that removal of debris, what it costs you, and you're absolutely entitled to that. Deducted from what you owe him, which is $4,500.
But he didn't finish the job.
Just a second. You tell me, how am I supposed to gauge how much of the job he didn't finish? Did he not complete $2,500 worth, $3,500 worth, $1,500 worth?
I think the $7,000 we paid him was overpaid. He didn't have to end up removing an entire pool. He only had to remove...
That's your problem. Just a second. I read that. You said it's not a big pool. It wasn't 8 feet. It was only 24 inches. He gave you a price to level everything. Nothing delineated, nothing in a written contract. The pool turns out to be 2 feet instead of 6 feet or 2 feet instead of 8 feet. Well, if he was the contractor and he came out and he looked at the pool, he said, oh, this is an 8-foot pool, and it turned out it's a 12-foot pool, he'd be stuck with 11.5, just like you're stuck with 11.5 because it was shallower. Now, you owe him $4,500 unless you want to produce for me bills that you have for rental equipment, et cetera, and I will absolutely deduct that from the $4,500. Just give me the bills and the amount of equipment. Don't say nothing, Mr. Retard. Mr. Rhodes, did you rent a Bobcat?
The one that I cleaned up the yard with?
Yes.
I rented a piece of equipment.
Jump up!
Yes.
And you know how they pick up metal?
No, I don't know that, sir. I'm a television personality. I don't know about people driving down the street to pick up metal. I've never had somebody drive down the street and say, I'm looking for metal. They don't even come down my street and ask if I want sharp knives.
Michael Attar has accused his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, of refusing to pay for demolition work. Mary and Michael claim he never finished the job and stole their property.
Now, what did you rent?
A skip loader.
That's different from a Bobcat.
Yes, that's correct.
Supo?
No. It's from a local rental yard. I think it was
all the equipment we rented
in Ontario.
$1,300.
Yeah.
Find it.
Yeah.
Find the bill.
They didn't print it, so now I gotta.
How many days did you have it, Mr. Rhodes?
4.
I'm dismissing your counterclaim, Mrs. Rhodes. Do you want to know why? Because I asked him a specific question, and you answered. Do you understand? Do you understand? That part of your counterclaim, because you don't have it, you can't find it. So far, you owe him $4,500. Not $8,600, but $4,500. Now, do you have any proof that Mr. Attar or someone from his team stole copper piping or whatever piping that you claim was missing? Do you have any proof that either Mr. Attar or anyone under his authority took property from you?
Yes. We have text messages back and forth.
Okay, I'll read them. Okay, so what you're referring to with regard to the stolen property is you send a picture and there's a little piece of pipe there, one piece of pipe, and you say, Mike, did you or your guys happen to grind off 2 metal poles and concrete blocks? The kids use those for volleyball nets. And he says, oh my God, no, sir, but I'm guessing the person whom I gave my medal to, no problem, Michael, please give, and I don't see the rest of this message.
Yes, so that was the beginning of things we noticed that were missing.
Oh, I don't care.
And
If
then,
this is what you're talking about?
Yes, he's saying he let a metal person onto our yard, and they went and took everything that was metal.
Okay. Okay, now, Mr. Attar.
Yes, Your Honor.
I want you to tell me about the missing metal on this property.
She was standing right there, and there was a metal guy that drove down the street.
Street to pick up metal. I've never had somebody drive down the street and say, I'm looking for metal. They don't even come down my street and ask if I want sharp knives.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Okay. Who is this person?
This person was picking up metal, and I asked for permission. I said, ma'am,
Just a
could he come
second.
down the property?
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Was this person picking up metal for nothing?
Yes,
Just a second. Yeah. You're a business guy. Mr. Attar, somebody drives down the street and says, you know, I see you doing construction. Is there any metal around here that you want me to dispose of?
Yes, ma'am. They do a lot.
Yes. And then they look around. This is what you tell them. They look around and they take the metal for nothing.
Yes, ma'am. This would be cheaper for me instead of load it on my trailer and take it to the recycling metal yard.
So what metal did they take, sir? I assume
Everything
what?
that I gave him.
What
was
did you
right
give
there.
them?
Nobody went up there and cut no poles, ma'am.
Well, they sent you a picture of a pole, sir, and in response to the picture of the pole, you said, oh, my God, I'm guessing the person whom I gave my medal to.
I'm guessing.
No problem. And then you say later, tell me what it is, and I will either look high and low to get it back or replace it. That's what you say.
Yes, I offered to replace it.
That's what you say.
I offered to replace it.
Now, next question. I need an itemized list on what the value was of the metal taken.
No, there's a list of everything. They're listed in there.
What is this?
Those are all the damages, but the metal is listed in there separately of the items that are missing.
No, it isn't. This is a whole bunch of other things that you prepared for this case.
It's in there underneath. There's the horse feeder. Part of the corral was cut off.
This is something that you wrote yourself.
Yes, you said an itemized list.
If they took 6 feet of pipe, get me a bill from Home Depot for the replacement of that pipe.
Oh, I have
all the bills for the replacement of metal, not what you prepared for this litigation.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Itemized list.
Did you take down a horse corral?
No, Your Honor, I did not take no horse corral. I have nothing
Horse corral is that? Just a second. Was there a 4-sided horse corral?
Yes.
That looked like this?
Yes.
That they took down?
They cut pieces that were sticking up above the horse corral, attached to the horse corral.
You're being petty. You're being petty. $306, Ram's price, galvanized wall-mounted horse feeder. Did you take a horse feeder?
No, Your Honor, I got no...
Yo, Mr. Attar, $4,500. Judgment for the plaintiff. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Well, his equipment broke, and he wanted us to rent the equipment for him.
Equipment died because things break down.
And then the next day, he calls and says he can't finish it.
At that moment, I didn't have a credit card to my name. And that's the honest truth.
So we pretty much figured that was job abandonment at that point.
I'm going to have a written contract in the future. Don't hire
Always
him.
hire a professional.
I could not believe that your first question to him when he said that he'd been working as a contractor for 14 years was, and you've been working all 14 of those years unlicensed?
Oh, yeah.
I was waiting for the question. I was waiting at the edge of my
Different
seat. It
minds.
never came.
Different minds. Yeah. Should have slipped me a note.
I should have.
You should have slipped me a note. No, that actually didn't cross my mind, but that's a good question.
Yeah. Oral contracts and no license.
No license, but there's no question. He did the work.
Yeah. No, I agree.
He did the work, and they were really dickering over who was going to absorb the cost of this second Bobcat that they had to get, which was really ridiculous. If they had had another contractor who came and completed the job,
you would have awarded that.
I would have deducted it from the $4,500 that they owed him. But absent that, the fact that he rented some sort of piece of equipment and came and cleaned up the property was not important to me, and the rest of their case was nonsense. next time they won't employ somebody for $11,000 from a card from your windshield.
At Home Depot.
From
Anywhere.
wherever, and not say, okay, listen, maybe I'll give him a shot. Give me 3 of your last references.
Vậy là chúng mình đã tô xong bức tranh ngày hôm nay rồi đây. Các bạn có thể thấy trên tay của mình đang cầm bức tranh một chiếc túi xách của Dior này. Với cách phối màu này của mình, các bạn cũng có thể tham khảo để tô cho bức tranh các bạn nha. Video của mình xin được kết thúc ở đây. Các bạn cũng đừng quên nhấn like và đăng ký kênh ủng hộ mình nữa nhé. Bye bye, xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn.